we are ready to talk about all these different things from different perspectives, but we don't want to talk about them from within nature, right? Who are we naturally supposed to be? Even when we talk about these holy days, what is the nature of them? What are they trying to get across as far as our nature, right? What is the natural thing, right? You can build a house all you want, as you can see here behind me, right? You can build a house. It can be beautiful. It can be awesome. You can have great parts, but like you can see eventually, if it's not, as much as you're trying to go against nature to make sure that you live in this area, as much as you try to go against who you are, right? Eventually, at some point, nature is going to win out. If it doesn't win out, you have to get rid of nature. But if the natural things come, the nature of things says, hey, I know you think this is the front door, but that's actually where this grows now. I know you think this is your covering, but your covering actually is the trees and the foliage, right? I know you think that it has to be brick and mortar, but before there was brick and mortar, there were these things. Now, I'm not saying we need to live outside necessarily, right? But I'm not against those who decide to live outside either. But what I'm trying to get across is that there is a nature to these things, right? There is a nature. How you doing, Sister Sabrea? There is a natural progression of things, and we should know what our nature is. For example, real quick example, one that we talk about quite a bit, and I'm just letting those know on YouTube. Hopefully, we'll be able to have you guys on for a while, but I'm using this as a backup, and we'll see how long the battery lasts. And by the way, I will not be on with you all. This will be a shorter live again. We do, like as I said, we do have to do some more things and deliver some things to others today, and make sure that some things are put out. So just roll with us. You know, we got to make sure that we get some help out the community. Some. How you doing, Minister Tracy? Welcome back, Sister Dawn. Um, so prayerfully, everything will go well. Can you guys hear me on YouTube, TikTok? Hold on a second. You're gonna pause. Can you guys hear me on YouTube? Prayerfully, you can. Yes, you can. Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right. So we want to know the nature of things. There's a nature of humanity, there's nature of Israel. So back to the example. For example, in our nature, within a man's nature, within a woman's nature. Obviously, this is very superficial. So obviously, there is more depth to what I'm about to say. But let's just say it this way, just for now, at least. Within our nature, right, a man naturally should be looked at different, and a woman naturally should be looked at different. Not just different as far as their male and female, different as far as even what our natural tests are, right? um I know that we've been taught this, but this is wrong teaching, as we've discussed plenty of times with Hasada Al, with SOC, here on these live sessions. However, let us delve into this a little bit again. Naturally speaking, as far as your nature is concerned, naturally speaking, as far as your nature is concerned, once again, naturally speaking, as far as your nature is concerned, um, right? A man's number one and number two need are what? Going to be respect, and believe it or not, sex, right? Big deal for him. He's created to give seed to the day he dies. Big deal for his creation, his nature, right? How you doing, Brother Donovan? How you doing, Sister Sage? He should not be abusive in these things, but at the same time, he requires these things, whether you believe it or not, right? For a woman, what? Her nature, her number one and number two need, as far as the six basic human needs, are going to be security and affection. Does she feel secure? Does she get affection? So, topically speaking, or even superficially, as far as the man, his nature, right, is going to be what? He is going to be looking, so he should be tested if you're going to get in a relationship or be in a relationship. His test is, as far as if he should have you as a wife, if he is a husband and should have you as a wife, his test is, can he secure you? And in his security, can it provide some affection? He's not as nurturing as you are, right? But can he provide you some affection to go with the security? Because affection is really nothing more than just kind of doubling down on security. If I'm doting upon you, I'm letting you know that I want to secure you. If I'm securing you, then one of the things you're going to start looking for is where's the affection that goes with it. How you doing, Brother Cole? Right? How you doing, Mad Bear? So security and affection, that's what he should be getting. So this is why persons are looking, hey, can my man provide? Can my man do this? Can my man be there? You know, you're not sitting, I'm not saying a man shouldn't do any of these things, but hear what I'm saying. Um, a wife is not sitting there looking like, hey, is my man gonna keep the house clean? Is my husband gonna keep the house clean? How you doing, Minister Samela Ray? How you doing, Trina? It's nice when he does, and he should, and it's great for him to speak your love language, and it's great to bless. Look, I like doing the laundry, I like doing dishes. I'm not saying right, that I should never do anything. I like being able to be like, yo, you know, I designed this room. I help make sure that this is a clean area. I love those things too, but it's not what I'm being engaged upon, right? If you want to see if Pastor Kofi's doing well, you're gonna be like, what's the condition of his wife? What's the condition of his son? Security. Not you're not gonna be like even like if my wife is dressed well, you're not gonna say, "Oh, Pastor Kofi was the one hooking her up with the stuff and the details, and he put the color pattern together." You're just gonna be like, "Oh, she looking fresh. She got her nails done. She seemed to be having a little pep in her step. He must be securing, right?" That's kind of how it works. On the flip side, right? This was just surface level for a second, but it's going to help us to rein in some of these weird things that we have from other cultures. We want to look at a natural test within our nature, within the nature of Yah, or what Yah says our nature is. Even how you doing, Prince? So, if you look at a sister, what's going to be her test? What is it that brother? What is it that the husband? How you doing, Warren? And thank you for the love. What is it that the husband is looking for to test to see if she is a wife? Right? It's different than the world. What is the husband looking for? What's the number one and number two need of a husband? Number one and number two need of a husband is respect, right? And sex, believe it or not. So what? Then the husband's going to look at, he's going to have obviously a physical attraction. That's why brothers are more physically attracted, looking at things or whatever, looking at them hips, looking at that. But that shouldn't be our number one thing. We should be looking at what? Respect. And for a lot of brothers, they're looking at, does that mean I can be heard? Right? And really, one that we kind of don't put together even in our teachings, but it's truth, is not only should we be looking at that, but real talk, we should be looking at what? Not just the things I just said, but also respect. And I'm sorry, when we say respect, respect is not only when a man feels heard, but you know how a man really feels like he feels heard? Just I'm gonna just give you game, right? Especially a husband, a kingdom husband. I can't speak for all men. That would be irresponsible. I cannot speak for all women. I can tell you a majority of persons that exist on the earth kind of fall in these categories. Even different cultures fall in this category. But let me hip you to something. We teach this, but I don't know if I've ever really directly put these things together, have direct correlation, right? A husband, kingdom husband, and we're looking for a kingdom wife. Respect, right, means do you hear me? But how do I know that you heard me? Because you multiplied what I said, or you multiplied what I gave, right? Because remember, husbands are going to secure what multiplies the work. Because the person who's supposed to be in the most submission is supposed to be the husband. The children are not supposed to be in more submission than the husband, right? The wives are not supposed to be in more submission than the husband. The husband is supposed to have the most submission. In other words, he's supposed to be submitted to the mission. It's not submission, it's submission. And all parties involved in our communities, especially our families, are supposed to be submitted to the same mission. This is why it's dangerous when we're like, well, you know what? My babies, they're babies, they got free will. I'm going to let them chew, blah, blah. That means that you're saying we don't have a mission. See, that's not natural. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's not natural. If there were wolves running around here somewhere and they were trying to figure out how to get it past the Kofi, right? They're going to have the same mission. It's not going to be, hey, you do this. They don't even have to speak, at least not our language, right? But they don't even have to speak as we would to each other. But body signals, cues, different things that happen, different experiences they've had. They have a mission. They got to get food. And so it doesn't matter what your thoughts are, this and that. Doesn't matter if you're limping a little bit, doesn't matter, whatever. What's the mission? What can you do to help us to contribute to the family and whatever your position is? Right? Submission is being submitted to the mission. It's not submission. It is not subwomanship. It is submission. But in the that's the nature of things. However, we are so busy being outside of our nature. The Willie Lynch syndrome has got us jacked up. This Willie Lynch syndrome has got us jacked up. Right? Willie Lynch said that he reversed our nature. He didn't just say he reversed the way we thought. He said, I reversed their nature. Why? Because he said in the natural, right, they called it the uncivilized, but he also said in their nature. Remember, when something is considered to be wild, it just means it doesn't fit in someone else's civilization. So he said if they were in their wild stature or in their civilization, what would happen is that the husband would protect the wife and the wife would look up to the husband and the children would grow up with that being the norm. He said, but since we reverse their nature, it is the wife who is the head, but she's not really the head. Why? Because she still is supposed to eat out of the palm of our hand. So while she's eating out of the palm of our hand and simultaneously saying she doesn't need a man, she doesn't recognize that what she's really saying is, I don't need my husband. I need somebody else to play my husband. Now, I'm not even talking about white, black. I'm talking about the slave master mentality over the slave. And many persons still live, whether white or black or in between, you are still enslaved to a wicked, beastly system that has you outside of your nature. Salah. Right? That's real. Within your nature, a lot of things move completely different than what they're moving like right now. Within your nature, a lot of things move completely different. They differ. They're not supposed to be where you are, not supposed to be the same thing that's going on, this, that, whatever. Within your nature, things are supposed to move a lot differently. And that means you should be choosing differently, which means once again, if we're testing this out, we should have a natural test. How you doing, Sister Mignon? This is a natural test. I'm not talking about a test that everybody just signs up for, everybody gonna agree with. No, we're talking about a natural test, a test of nature, testing to see if this is your nature, right? Testing if this is your nature. So now this is why culture is extremely important, because what is our culture? Our culture becomes our nature, or our culture should be our nature, right? If somebody says my spouse doesn't see what I see, and I'm not talking about in the physical, I'm talking about in the spiritual, right? Or even in the psychological. But when you're saying somebody doesn't see what I see, what you're saying is their nature is not the same as mine, right? Because of my nature, right? I pick up on things that others don't pick up, because in my nature, in my natural self, things look different than my worldly self, right? How you doing, Brother Joseph? How you doing, Brother Lamar? I have to have my nature in order to see what Yah wants me to be. This is what salvation is. Salvaging. Salvaging. Right? I'm going back to my original self. That's what salvation, the person, place, or thing that has gone back to its original intent. Salvaging, salvation. So if you're talking about work out your own salvation, that means you have to work out your own nature, but you got to know your own nature in order to work it out. How you gonna work out your own nature and you don't even know what it is? Beloved. I'm gonna say that again, and then we're gonna do a quick salah. I just realized that I do have a charger, and I can go grab it so that I can make sure that the Wi-Fi stays on for YouTube, since we're having so many issues with YouTube. So I'm gonna say that again. We're gonna have a salah moment, and if you would give me about a minute, I'm gonna go ahead and walk over to my vehicle and get that cord. Praise Yah that I brought one. This is not my normal vehicle, but I did think ahead to bring one. Praise Yah, or the Holy Ghost made sure I brought one. So we'll say this again, and then we'll go ahead and dive a little deeper into this. But once again, right, if I'm supposed to salvage salvation, right, then I have to go back to my nature. But how does one salvage themselves or work out their own salvation or go back to their original intent, and one does not know their own nature? Salah. Be right back. All right. So as we said, if we're working at our own salvation, going back to our original intent, how does one do so without knowing their nature? How do you walk in nature and not know what nature is? Unfortunately, this happens quite a bit, but how does that really happen? How are we really able to do that? How are we able to be effective the way that Jehovah wants us to be, and we don't know the nature of Yah? Right? We have to at least know the nature of Yah, to be honest with you, because we have to at least know where we come from, and we have to, and He's the one who created us. So when Jehovah says husband and wife do, it should be based off of what He says husband and wife is. How do you test if you're a great husband or a great wife? What does Jehovah say? What is His nature? Right? Yahashua is an example. Husbands, love your wives as Yahashua loved the Qadashem, right? Aish, Aish, Achaba, um, Aish, Achaba, Aisha, At, Yahashua, Achaba, Qadashem. How, what is the standard? Husbands, be willing to be submitted to the mission, including, if necessary, giving your life for your wife. You say He created us, you sound crazy. Sure. To those who are not within my culture. This is not for everybody. So I could care less. And by the way, rude boy, your name actually goes with what it suggests, because you don't even know how to say hello. So somebody who will try to tell me about myself but can't even give a proper greeting is somebody that I'm not really interested in talking to. But thank you for being on. If you'd like to listen long enough to even see what the culture, what I'm saying, because I guess your belief system is thinking that I'm a Christian, which is not. With that being said, thank you for being on, and I hope that you have a great day. And if you'd like to move on, feel free. You see, but you have to realize, see, somebody's coming in and their test is what? Their test is, I've got to tell you all about yourself. I got to tell you this. I got to tell you that. I got to tell you you're wrong. I got to tell you you don't know this, blah, blah. Right? But that's not within, at least that shouldn't be within the nature. If somebody swears that they're this intellectual, or they're going through the pseudo intellectual mantra, right? Or this jumble of words that they're putting together in this diatribe, you should at least have the ability, right? To be like, hey, I can at least greet you, even if I disagree with you. If you can't greet, you can automatically see that somebody's not even on, doesn't even have the mindset to treat you as a human being, right? But the tests of the world are different. The test of the world is I'm gonna yell and scream and fuss and blah blah. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna come in here immediately and be like, see, I'm gonna have a whole bunch of persons laughing at you, and that's not even something. See, so they're looking for me to give them the same kind of response back, and the reality is, you're not even worthy of being on my sheet. You wouldn't be on my test paper, because that's not a test for me. I won't say you're not, but definitely that behavior is not even in my class. I'm not studying that behavior. I'm not a student of it. I'm aware of it, but I'm not studying it. You see, you see what I'm saying? You have to realize who you are. How you doing, DMZ? Yeah, it's very low frequency in that type of mindset. So you have to get back to your nature. If your nature is boisterous for no reason, then how can you be reasoned with? Are you hearing what I'm saying? And thank you, by the way, if you're still listening. I know you've been muted, so you're probably gone. But thank you, by the way, for even coming on and showing that, because you're just simply showing what Holy Ghost is trying to get us to see today. And yes, we do believe that we are created, right? And we believe that anybody who is created should be in tune with their creator. By the way, can I just give you something real quick? I'm not even talking about the person anymore. So, praise Yah. Hope that person has a great day. Amen. How you doing, sir? Is it offense? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, right? Um, but or offense, I'm not sure. But here's something for you. And all this stuff, when somebody says I'm a scientist, by the way, a bunch of scientists actually believe, there are probably more scientists on the planet that believe that there's a creator, and there's even still others that are not sure if there's a creator, so they don't disbelieve. Then there are persons who say that there cannot be a creator. That being said, um, have you ever noticed that the same persons who say you shouldn't study a creator, made by man and man-made theories and things like that, they'll say that a lot of these persons will say, well, I'm a scientist, and as a scientist, I believe in fact. and I believe that it has to be researched, and I believe this, that, etc. And then they study so-called science, and they believe in it. Except the problem is that they're believing in theories. They're believing in things that come to find out these theories are broken. See, you believe in the theory of gravity. You guys believe there's such thing as gravity, but the theory of gravity was disproven by Albert Einstein. So Sir Isaac Newton is definitely an extremely smart person. He's definitely intelligent. He's even somebody towards the end of his life, though, that didn't even want to necessarily put all his marbles in the theory of gravity. It's a theory. It is something that helps you with point B. See, point A we know, point C we know, but point B we might not have been aware of, or we might not be so, or things are so jumbled up, it's confusing. And so point B is a theory for a lot of persons. And so even if you believe for me to be theoretical, here's the issue with my theory. You're saying your theory is greater than mine. Is that when you say that, see, this is why we got to get back to the nature of things. We got to comprehend even the nature of these words. How you doing, Brother Ali, if I didn't say so already? Um, Even in all the stuff that we are speaking on, if we just keep it a buck, well, this theory that I have has been around as long as you can talk about. It has not changed. Now, when Moses came up with it, and he's the one that just wrote, no, before Moses, this theory was around, if you want to call it such. No, well, okay, fine, Abraham. No, before Abraham, this theory was around. How you doing, Sister Osmond? If that's what you want to call it. As far back as you go, somebody has something in line with my theory. But you have to keep changing your theory. This theory is never changed. Now, those who are even in my culture who try to change this theory, we come against them. We speak against them because it's not right. But I wouldn't even call it theoretical. At this point, we have to say that there's too much. If it's been around for thousands of years, thousands upon thousands of years, before Christ, thousands of years, then we have to admit, right? Even your calendar is shaped around Christ, even if you don't believe it. Even if you want to call it Anno Domini instead of after Christ, you have to realize the only reason you started saying AD is because you mark the same thing that we mark with AC or AY for us, if you want to go there. So even in that, we have to recognize and realize that there's something natural about what we're doing that has not changed, and therefore there must be something unnatural about their doing if they keep trying to tell you to change what you believe in every 15 to 20 years or so. How is there new math? Watch this. When I was young, it was newer math. When my brother 10 years or 12 years, a decade, my junior went to high school. There was newer math. Now all of a sudden, my children doing newer math. My youngest doing new math. At some point, we had to say, why do we have to keep doing new things to get the same result? And the math that I grew up with and the math I have in my head seems to get me there better than yours. See, you're more concerned about competing theories than you are about if it's true or not. How you doing, Sister Taya? See, and so I have to go to the natural order of things. Right? My son takes some classes and stuff like that online. He's learning about factors. And, of course, factors, prime numbers come out of that. Then you got to deal with multiples, et cetera, right? And I already knew once I saw where the stuff was going and I saw what they were doing with the factors, I was like, oh, okay, you're going to go to prime numbers soon. And let's start dealing with this and multiples and let's start having a specific thing. I shared some of it with you the other day when I started messing up with expansion and stuff like that with cold and heat. But before that, I was on track. I was cooking. Right. And before that, I was cooking. Right. And I was saying, hey, if you're doing factors, I can probably, or not factors. Yeah, factors. I can figure them out pretty quickly because I have a certain way to do it. If I think this, boom. If I go to the next part, boom. If I just simply go in order, the natural order of things, I will always get the answers. Even without scratch paper, I'll start to get answers that others may not get quite as fast because I have an order that I'm going through. See, there's something about a natural order that caused me to get there. So as soon as I saw them talking about factors, I was like, oh, okay, we need to start telling you what a prime is. Next thing I know, 2 days later on the class, right, the online class is taking, what do? They start talking about prime numbers. The next week, what do? They start talking about multiples. We already been there though. We real like because there's a natural order, there's a natural progression, even in what they're teaching at the school. If you're going to teach this stuff, then you should already know what's coming up next. Right? I don't have to be in your school system though to recognize that. I don't have to give up my culture or my way of thought to be able to get him there. Matter of fact, my way of thought, when taught to him and shown, even if it's a little more difficult to get it first, once he gets it, it means it's something he can keep for the rest of his life. You said that statement shows that they are in In fact, not believers, a creator can be explained with mathematics. Who he is may not be explained, but science proves there's a creator. Even Christopher Langan, yeah, and many others besides that. Even your Jordan Petersons of the world, who used to say no, or then used to say it doesn't matter as much, and used to say coming around on it, and now so even your philosophers, right? Even those who are supposed to be anti-creator had to come out with stuff and say that the problem with morality was God is dead. That's actually a poem. I forget who wrote it, but there's a poem where somebody literally wrote, God is dead. If you want to hear somebody quote it flawlessly, you can look up Ravi, Ravi Zacharias, Zacharius. Right? But I'm just saying, so somebody will have a theory of gravity and then won't tell you, oh, yeah, but that theory was disproven. Somebody will have a theory of relativity and then not tell you, oh, yeah, that theory was disproven. Now, can we use pieces of it? Sure, but those pieces we can use are pieces that we've already had. Right? But persons are fighting about that. But getting back to the nature of things, we need to know our nature. I'm not trying to compete against a theoretical position of somebody who doesn't even see things the way that I am. The person who's telling me, like, watch this, Western medicine, look at the theory of it and stuff like that. Look at this. Well, didn't Benjamin Franklin live a long time? And didn't one of your presidents was a Polk? Didn't he live a really long time? And didn't he have a grandson? His grandson still existed, at least until last year, 2023. Not sure if he's still alive, but Polk was born in the 1700s. Polk born in the 1700s has a grandson alive at the end, going into the 2020s. You see what I'm saying? Right? So you want me to believe that it's just now, or for us, living to be 80, 90, 100, 100 plus is not a new thing. Why are you just catching up with that? Why are you just now being like, oh, this is a new thing, and look at this, and look at how we're living longer, and look at the average. By the way, you've been lying about the averages anyways. But even with that, okay, fine. The average person that looks like myself is only supposed to live into their what, 50s and 60s? That wasn't that long ago. But then they say the average man. So then even with that, well, then I don't want your Western medicine if it's only going to go to certain persons. We're going to have to control our own if we're the ones that are bringing the average down and you guys are the ones bringing it up. And it's not just that, even it's and then I can keep going on through that, right? But that's obviously not our nature. Something unnatural is going on to where we're suggesting that we're just getting back to what persons are getting to when our persons were enslaved, when our people were enslaved. They tell you all the time that they lived to see three generations of slave master, not three generations of persons of the family. No, they lived to be under three generations of master because the masters didn't know how to eat correctly and didn't know how to make sure that they did things properly. So while we were without, we outlived, which means that we had to have knowledge that you guys keep saying that we had none of. And yes, there was some of that. Yes, sir, boss. And yes, sir. And amen. There were some people that thought that Master was God. There was that believed that if it wasn't for a white Jesus, there'd be no savior. However, there were a lot of persons that were smart enough and intelligent enough to play you for a fool. Look at Haiti, or what you call Haiti, and look at the Haitian Revolution. It starts off, right? It starts off in the late 1700s with many people of Haiti or coming together as a people who were already speaking, acting stupid, acting dumb, acting slow, having meetings and stuff. And even when some of the Sambo spirit persons were coming to tell the master, right, what was going on, these Blanc Petit and Blanc, I'm sorry, yeah, Blanc Petit and Blanc Gahan, or the big whites and the little whites who were in charge, wouldn't believe the Sambos, wouldn't believe the ones who were trying to sell out their own people because they said, no, there's no way that they're even smart enough to come against us. Because the nature of the slave master, the nature of the conqueror, you are more than a conqueror, but the nature of the conqueror, the nature of the colonist is one that where they believe that what they say is the only thing. You said before the more more certain people didn't live past 35. Yeah. So when you hear them say, like a Jordan Peterson come out and say, yeah, persons didn't live until they were past 30. They had all these babies when they were teenagers, and then they got to be 25, 26. And if they lived past that, that was amazing. That's not us. That's not us. How you doing, Danielle? How you doing, Joseph? Right? That's not us at all. So we have to get back to start thinking about things through our nature. Just like yesterday, we talked about there's an expected test. Well, know that this is a natural test. You got to get back to your nature. You've got to get back to your nature. Your babies are not supposed to be raised under somebody else's nature. Oh, you fine, Sister Sabrea. Thank you for being with us. Right? But we have to get things back to their nature, to the natural place. Right? Work out your own salvation. Work out your own path to your origins. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against your origin, against principalities. You have no clue who you are. It's time to go back. Or now that you have a clue as to who you are, it's time to live as if you are who you are. Oh man, I had this divorce happen. What am I going to do? Live as who you are before the divorce. And if that wasn't that great, then you need to figure it out. And by the way, when I'm really saying go back to who you are, I'm talking about who you were before the foundation of the world, that person that many of you have never met, and many of you who probably will never meet if you're not careful. Shalom, Auntie Marion, how you doing? You got to go back to the original. Before somebody told you your name was Washington, and I don't know if we have any Washingtons on here, I'm just using that. What was your name? Before somebody said the King James 1611, and I love the 1611 King James version. I use it all the time, or a lot of the time. That being said, before somebody told you that was the standard, why didn't they tell you that there were other books written, other Bibles written in English before, even though he was trying to do some study and research supposedly to get things right? But then also, why didn't that remind you that's a version? Oh yeah, it was written in Greek. Why don't they remind you that's a version? No, the Greek's the original. No. Pretty much the entirety of the Bible was written in Avla or Hebrew. And then they start throwing some slick stuff in there. Oh, no. It was Aramaic, right? Aramaic persons had their own language, but they used the alphabet, or they used our culture to write because they didn't have a written language. They had a verbal one, not a written one. So they had to read what you wrote. Then they spoke it in their language, but that's still a version of what you wrote. Salah. Right? It's still a version of what you wrote. How you doing, Michelle? Thanks for being on today. Shalom. And shalom to everybody. Barakallah Shem Yachava. May the blessings of Yachava be upon thee and your family. So you hear what I'm saying? How you doing, Dream? I don't know if it's Dream Chasing Cam, I think. Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Jose? Yeah, translation versus transliteration. And both are dangerous if you don't know what they are. Translation stuff gets lost in that all the time, but transliteration, for the most part, I'm going to say always, for the most part, transliteration is going to be something in which somebody is using their characters or using their language to try and say, okay, I'm going to do the best to take what somebody has and put it into ours. But if things aren't there, if characters aren't there, if meanings can't be gotten, then you're going to have stuff that's lost anyways, or things that easily are changed. Sometimes they're changed on purpose. So what is your nature? This is a natural test. This is a natural test. If you are a tree, but you're bearing a different type of fruit, it might be because that's not the tree. You're not the same tree. No shade, no offense. Anybody of any color, right, has probably gone through this experience. Some more than others, I would suggest. But like I say, persons of many colors. So this is not a color-centric thought process I'm about to say. That being said, though, let's be honest about the experience. No matter how much everybody say, it don't matter what color you are, I don't see color, blah, blah, this and that. Hang around other persons long enough and see if you feel comfortable no matter what. We were not too far from here. We're a little ways from it, but we're not too far from here yesterday. My son and I were enjoying some time, and he's, been riding his bike more and more and stuff like that. I got him a really big bike because, to challenge him, but also because he's growing fast, right? So soon he's gonna be able to get on it, right? And so, I make him practice because, if you're not careful, these babies will get used to staying inside, blah blah. So you got to get them out and having stuff. So that's why he's doing this and on this team, blah blah, and all this and running around and going swimming, yada yada. You got to get him out, right? And while we're over there, this is a ways over, but while we're over, wherever we were on the other side of the park, he is riding, and there's these two women that are walking, and forgive me, I'm going to use the social constructs and colonial constructs real quick. There is a what we would call white woman walking with a what we would call black woman. White woman got her two dogs, etc. They're walking past, and as I'm recording it, I'm realizing because I'm recording it, I want to send video to some family to let them know, like, see the progress and stuff, let them know. And as we're recording it, I'm like, I'm hearing the conversation, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna get in the recording. I'm like, well, whatever, okay, they're just gonna hear it. But it's the white woman talking about how this apparently black guy, and she's like, you know what, man, he acting like an N-word, blah blah, this and that, and the black woman just kind of like go with it, and I'm kind of thrown back, like, yo, that's kind of wild, right? She won't call him name, but she's like, yeah, this he acting like this, they be acting like N-word, blah blah, this and that, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay, she didn't say it, but I'm just sitting there like, and I'm waiting for her to respond. And then they pass and they pass and they go past and they go past. And even Solomon heard a little bit of it. He's kind of like riding the bike like like nah, it keeps on going like it can't be. But and in all that you can say whatever, but for her to fit in apparently with this woman who looked like they supposed to be friends. How you doing, Sister Jennifer? She got to do some things to fit in. She's got to come outside of her nature, because that's not natural for me to just be sitting up there and you're going to be talking about some black guy acting like an N-word. Because if you saying that in front of her and you cleaned it up, but you'll still say N-word out of your mouth, then it ain't too forgive my language, but it's not too far removed for me to know that when you around somebody else that nigga or nigger gonna come out. I'm just saying, right? Like that was a clear indication. And the fact that you would allow that shows that you don't know who you are or won't defend who you are and won't go back to the origin even of how people throw that word in, right? Right? You see it on the flip side too. I've told a person this before. Um, there's a guy, social constructs once again, call him white. He got a white wife, one of the persons that are really Spanish, but they live as white. And, she tried to act like she's everybody's friend, but really not. And I don't kind of play that game. So we're not really cool. But her husband comes around every once in a while. And I'm I come off as antisocial sometimes, I'll tell you, because if I'm not speaking for the most part, I'm very introverted. So here's this white guy coming in or whatever, and you can tell he's one of these guys that grew up in a black neighborhood or around black persons or whatever, and he think he's supposed to act like this, and you can tell he probably been bullied by some of the way that he acts by us, and that happens to them too. We act like it's only with us. That happens for them too, and so he's sitting up there and so finally, our families are talking a little bit. We're trying to see if we're going to be able to get close with them or not, maybe hang out, the children hang out, whatever. And it ended up ultimately we didn't. But we tried to, go in there or whatever. And so he goes, so I'm like, hey man, what's up, bro? Like what they call you, right? Yeah, it got too comfortable, right? So I'm like, hey bro, what they call you? What's your name? And he's like, oh man, you ain't gotta worry about it. They just call me crazy white boy. And he starts chuckling. I don't laugh. It wasn't funny. He said, they call me crazy white. But I said, and I told him immediately, like with the swiftness, with the quickness, I said, no, we're not gonna do that. And he just looked at me. I said, no, we're not gonna do that. Like, I was like, what's your name? What's your name? Right? Tell me your name. Like, and he looked at me strange, like, no, it's crazy white boy. It's fun. No, it's not. What is your name, sir? Right? He and I guess he threw it up, but he opened up to me after he tried to. I'm be honest with you, he kind of took me up back, and I never like relationship kind of ain't been repaired since. But I was like, no, we not. I'm not doing that. And even if that's what others did to you, or that's what you think you're supposed to say, or you saw some movie, I don't know where you got it from, but you act like, black people kind of, you trying to be around them and they kind of say whatever, whatever. But no, I don't roll like that. Right? You're gonna have to come as who you are. Right? When I'm asking you about you, I don't need you to have self-deprecating behavior to be around me. I'm not trying to depreciate you in value. I'm trying to lift you up. That's appreciate for real. That to depreciate somebody? No. What is your name? Who are you originally? Who were you before everybody told you that you crazy white boy? Right? Because you can't be up in my presence. You're not gonna be around my son and be crazy white boy. You're gonna be your name, right? Come correct, right? You see what I'm saying? So we have this mindset, like people don't know about their nature. We don't look at our nature, right? We're just trying to fit in. As unnatural as just trying to fit in is. Because look, you don't tell somebody, "Oh yeah, my car broke down. Cool, I'm gonna come and hit your what." You don't say, "All right, I'm gonna just come by with a tire and change your tire." How you doing, Sister Taylor? You don't say, "I'm gonna just come by with a tire to change your tire." Why don't you do that? Because I don't even know what kind of tire you have. What is the size? I might ask, do you have a spare? Why? Because if you have a spare, especially if it's a spare given to you by the persons who actually make the car, then it means that it's designed to fit the car. But I just can't come with any tire and be like, we just wanted to fit in. Oh my greatness, that's a word. Somebody don't miss that, right? Somebody X that, tweet that, whatever you do now, right? Somebody let your friends and family know about that. I'm not designed to just fit in, right? If I'm going on the car, it's because I already fit, or it's because I was specifically designed. I'm not. You can't just put me in anywhere, right? If my brother called me up and be like, "Hey, I need a spare tire," Bruder, he roll with a bigger vehicle than I do, right? And so if I try to take my tire, trying to be like, "Oh, well, I'm going to show how much I love my brother. I'm gonna show up with a tire," that don't even make no sense. You might call that love, but the reality is you actually showing hate. Why? Because hate is just inaction. And you didn't take the action of thought to actually be like, hey, maybe I should see if what I have fits or is designed by the manufacturer. Nothing can just fit in. This ain't one size fits all. You got to be designed for this. This is a natural test. We're trying to see if you fit the design. Husbands love your wives, not men love your wives, because not every man is a husband. Uh-oh. It didn't say boyfriends love your wives. It said husbands love your wives, because boyfriends are boys that are friends. They're not husbands. Thank you for the love. You said you live in Kansas and own or you live in Kansas and own a business. Have had several customers come out of pocket when talking to you. Seems like the cost of doing business, yeah, POC versus PW can be in certain places, especially I would imagine in parts of Kansas. I've never lived there, so I can only imagine, right? But I'm designed. See, I am not trying to preach like other preachers, not because every other preacher is wrong, but because I don't fit in, right? When Minister Tamara preaches, I expect a certain result because she doesn't fit in. She designed to preach like she preaches. When Minister Anais preaches, I don't expect her to just fit in. I expect her to fit in or to be in a way she's designed to preach. I can't preach like Minister Anais. She's better at preaching like Minister Anais than I am. Do you hear what I'm saying? Minister Yasav, he is better at preaching like Minister Yasav than I am. Minister Elisha, she is better at preaching like Minister Elisha than I am. I'm not trying to fit into that. I'm not trying to say they're wrong. I'm trying to say they're better at them. So if you bring me, I can do something to make sure that I do what y'all do. But if Minister Samaya LeRae says, hey, I need you to do this event for me, I'm coming to be obedient to what she says, but I cannot be her. If Minister Bertram says, I need you to come and speak at this, et cetera, all right, I'm not trying to I will be obedient to what he asked, but I cannot be him. Right? I can only be me. The list goes on and on. There's a lot of us. Right? Minister Stephen, Minister Morel, Minister Shantae. I don't even know if I said, that I don't know which ones I said and didn't at this point. Minister Dr. Tamach, Minister Jelani. Did I say Minister Stephen? I'm not sure. Right? There's a lot of y'all. I love y'all. If I miss somebody, please know that I love y'all. Okay? right? But I can only be who I'm called to be. And I'm learning how to be my original self. Now, the great thing about it is because we are a body, we are designed fitly joined together. See, we're fitly joined together. We don't just fit in, we're fitly joined. The hip bone comes with the hip muscle. They didn't grow separate. This is why when you get somebody getting an organ transplant, your body fights it. They have to actually trick your body. They actually have to give you medicine to not fight disease when you get an organ transplant. Why? Because your body says that this does not fit in. It's not original. The best thing you can always do for your body is to make sure that you keep as much original parts as possible. Because the second that you have something unoriginal, you have to start shutting your body down because the body is not designed to have unoriginal parts. This is why even when the seed from your husband comes in, sisters, your body's first response is going to be to try to attack the baby. That's why as soon as the sperm gets in, then the spermicide, the natural spermicide you have in your body starts to try and kick in, and the sperm that's strong enough to make it through makes it to the egg. The body immediately starts sending signals all over the place to say, hey, this is something that's part of us. Part of it comes from somebody else, but because we become one with this person, it means that person is now us. So what we carry is part of us because that person is now us. You said, are there actual buildings that minister in the truth? Probably. I mean, I would say there's a few. I mean, everybody, including probably myself from time to time, all of us make mistakes. And I don't know everything, so I can't say everybody knows everything. But I mean, I know like I don't know what it is now, but Bahamas Faith International Ministries, I think is what it's called. When Dr. Miles Monroe, I give him much credit, even though I don't agree with everything he said. But at the end of the day, I give him much credit for how I think. Uh, I'm not sure about Fred Price's place. I know his son is over it now, but he's starting to come out and tell the truth about Israelites or Hebrews, and they've always kind of been an outlier. Like they'll give you some truth, even though they're churchy, but they'll give you some truth. Um, I don't know. I like the word, even though there's some stuff that we would disagree with. But John Jenkins, they're up north in Maryland, um, First Baptist Church of Glenarden. I think that's what they are. But yeah, there's some places out there. There's some camps. There's some camps I would say go to. There's some camps I would say don't go to. I like IUIC and what they do for the children. Sometimes IUIC be a little bit rough, and they got some bad background stuff that come out of with Yahweh Ben Yahweh, with the leadership there. But they'll give you some stuff that's true. But you got to know the word for yourself. That's why our Messiah said, and this includes me as well. Our Messiah said, you need to know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. You might not know how all the law goes together yet. That's cool. But you should know the law greater than the scribes and Pharisees. You said you're in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Do we have anybody in Connecticut as far as members? We may. It's been a while that I've heard from them, but I know we have persons in Rhode Island. We have persons in, oh no, that's Massachusetts. I was going to say, I know we have somebody, at least two families in Boston. I don't know about Connecticut though. I actually was thinking about the other day. I don't know when I'll do it. I was actually thinking about just taking a trip up to Maine at some point. I've never been. So if I go to Maine in my leisure, in my off time or something, I was thinking like maybe I'll say hi to everybody on the way up. But yeah, I don't know if we have any other families in Connecticut. I have to look at our sheet that we have. We have a spreadsheet that people fill out information for us. I'm not sure. But I'm not sure, to be honest with you, and maybe it's a bad thing. I'm not the greatest at being able to, like, I don't always connect with all the different camps and all the different churches and stuff. I just kind of come across persons, and if they believe what we believe, cool. But I don't even really know names and titles and all that. Please forgive me. You said pass by New York. Yeah, we'll see. There's a possibility we might be able to do so this month. Possibility. Um, I was even thinking we can talk about this a little bit more. I'm gonna get back on track. We can talk about this more tonight with the meeting for everybody tonight at 9, New York time, Eastern time. But I was thinking about October 3rd. I was saying that would be like kind of the DMV area, but I think it might make sense to try and see if we can do it uh, in Philly. I gotta look. I think somebody even volunteered a place for us to do it in the Philly area. So we got some families in Philly for sure, and we have some Philly not too far from NYC. is not too far from Jersey. So maybe we can try to make that work. We'll see. But I gotta. I had no. I didn't have a chance to get into my messages and stuff yesterday. Yesterday we were going around, riding around, checking on people and delivering stuff to people. So, um, and helping out, Changing Lives Initiative. By the way, those of you who are interested, Coat Drive for Changing Lives Initiative is going to be October 5th. I got to get the dates in my mind and we'll have it posted somewhere for you. But it's going to be one in October, one in November, one in December, one in January, and then probably another one in February. So just to give you guys a heads up, if you're looking to donate, there's still time, and obviously there's months of it that's going to be happening for the coat drive, clothing drive / food drive / socks / baby / all the stuff that we end up giving out. So if you're interested, or even if you're in the DMV area, for the most part, I think that's where it's going to happen this year. We're working on trying to see if we can do it simultaneously in other locations, but we know for sure it'll be in the DMV / Baltimore areas if you're interested in coming out and helping out. And even sometimes brothers, as simple as sometimes I'll be the only brother out there and we be in the thick of things. So even if you want to come out, watch our back or something like that, um, people don't really mess with the babies and stuff when they come out, but for whatever reason they be like try to be disrespectful to the women and stuff. So that's kind of what my gig is when we had these. So if you want to come out and help out with that, you're more than welcome to. But anyways, back to the nature of things. Back to the nature of things, the natural order, right? And by the way, if there's a natural order of things, and there's also something called now we're talking about today, the theme is the natural test, a natural test. But there's a natural order. If there's a natural order, then guess what that means? There's also there's a natural vision. There's a natural goal. See, if there's natural law, right? If I plant a seed, the natural goal is for it to become a tree or to become the herb, become the bush, become whatever. But if I plant a seed, the seed is so powerful that in its nature will take over, right? At some point, the nature will take over, right? If I plant a seed, its nature will take over, it becomes a tree. If I plant a seed inside of my wife, nature takes over, becomes Solomon, right? It has a natural end. Now remember, end means really direction. I know for many of us, we think the end means it's over, right? But sometimes the word end can mean direction. It has a natural direction that is going towards. See, when we say something's ending, we're really saying we're going in a direction where we can see it's about to come to a close, or at least this phase of things is about to stop so we can shift into the next phase. But if there's a natural, right, if there's a natural order, there must be a natural vision of what we would call a natural goal, which means now in the center of that or in the midst of that, there must be a natural progression. Hmm. Can you see the importance of knowing one's nature? Because if I have a natural landing spot, then I must have a natural progression. How you doing, brother TJ? Because the end tells me that I must progress. If I'm trying to get to the house, then if I take one step, then you can say I'm one step closer. How can you know I'm one step closer? Because you know the end. If you have no clue what I'm heading towards and I take one step, well, what am I closer to? If you are the target and I take one step closer, then you can say he took one step closer towards me. Why? Because you know you know what I'm headed towards. So my end, when I say that's the end, I'm just saying that is the vision. Now, when I get to that end, I might go inside. I might climb on top. I might take some of the herbs. I might walk around it. I might wait to see if deer come out. But regardless of how you want to look at it, I'm going towards a natural end. So if I'm going towards this end, then everything I'm doing, you can tell now. Watch this. Watch this. I know this is going to sound simple. Just roll with me. I'm trying to get us to go back to our nature, even our nature of thought, right? If that is the end, have I walked towards the end or away from it? Right? Here again, right? If this is the end, have I walked towards the end or have I walked away from it? Of course, I walked away from it. I'm walking towards you. Even if you cannot see me, you could hear my voice and say, "Oh, because of where his voice is, he must be he must be closer to the end than he is the beginning." If you hear me continue to talk and I just continue to talk in a normal voice without raising my voice at all, you even with your eyes closed, you would be able to tell what he must be closer to where the beginning, or at least he must be closer to where I am in the journey, because maybe I'm not at the beginning, but where I am. And so when I hear even the voice of Yah, and it feels like he's far from me, could it be because he's closer to the end? Because Yah's not trying to get off track. Either he's with me, I've gone before him, which could be dangerous because now I'm without his protection, or he's further along than I am. I need to get back on track. See, even in that, I can tell the natural progression, the nature of where I'm supposed to be. Come on, you ever had in your prayer life? I know everybody gets there sometimes, and you're like, man, he feels. Matter of fact, the Bible even declares that sometimes talking about that, yeah, he feels so far from me. Why do you not feel like you're close? Why do you not feel like you're there? And then and then what do? You have to say to yourself, oh, okay, well, what am I doing? Where am I on this journey? Where am I on this path? All right, I'm off. Creating me a clean heart and renew within me a right standing. Cause you to be right where I am on this journey, so that now I can go through the natural progression of things with you being there to reveal your nature and help me to have my nature be revealed. Come on, somebody. See, you got to know your nature. Once again, if we're talking about salvation, salvaging oneself, getting back to the original intent, how do you get back to your original intent and you do not know your nature? And how do you get back to the original intent for you from the creator and you do not know his nature? People say a rose by any other name would still be a rose. That's true. But if you give a rose a different name, you probably have a different thought process on what the rose is. How you doing, Sister Sylvia? See, a rose, or rose, or le français, is talking about the color as well as the flower. Why? Because they look at a rose as being that color. Can roses come in different colors? Sure. But they say that rose, or what we call rose, they call that pink. Now, you'll say rose pink in the culture you're from, but what you're not realizing is there's a cultural thing going there. You say rose pink because you do not speak French. And how you doing, Sister Monica? Right? They're saying rose because the color pink to them is rose. Right? So if you're going there looking for pink, you got to go there looking for rose. In Espanol also? Okay, there you go, right? So if you're going to, right? This is why your boy, even though he's a fake version of it, but that's why your boy, for those of you who be listening to him in rap still, Ricky Rose, right? He's Ricky Rose because, and he wears pink sometimes. It's in his name. It's not just a lover boy thing. That's a appreciation of somebody's culture. So if I go to France, if I'm looking for pink, I'm looking for rose. If your name is Rose, your name is pink. Rosa, your name is pink. It's Visigothic language. Just because you have a different dialect of it doesn't mean it's not Visigothic. Right? Doesn't mean it's Gothic language. That's what they're. I know you've been taught it's Romantic language because they tried to tell you this is what the Romans did. The Romans loved Latin, and so all these languages or whatever were affected. But you got to realize that what you're calling Romantic languages is basically Latin. It's not even Roman language, right? It's Latin language, right? Some Greek language, and some Visigothic or Germanic languages, right? Coming together. You have to realize, like, the persons that you consider to be this or that, they're Gothic or even Germanic. The Germanic persons are the persons that the Franks come out of. So when you talk about the Franks or the people that are French, they are German. German doesn't mean what you think about with Germany and Hail Hitler and all that stuff. No, they are German. That's what that's who they are. When you're talking about the British were considered to be the brutish, and they have been beaten up and they have been taken over. They were taken over by those who were in Normandy. The Normans were the ones who were mixed with the Germans, mixed with the Franks, and mixed with the Scandinavians, as we were talking about not too long ago, mixed with what a lot of you call Vikings, thinking that Vikings are people, not realizing that Viking is a profession. And so they mixed together. That was Normans, and then those persons that wanted to keep on taking over, they offed half the people of what you call England, so that they could go ahead and become the first so-called English, or William the Conqueror, who really was considered to be William the Bastard. This is why, once again, we have to figure out our nature and the nature of those that are around us. Are you being taught that something is natural and it's not? I wonder. Could it be possible that you're being taught something is natural and it is not? Is it natural to treat a lie like it is the truth? Is it natural to say I don't see color when, if you're colorblind, or you have a stigma, or stigma, excuse me, or if you have some kind of cataracts, or right, I was watching some video. It was very interesting. Somebody was putting up these different glasses if you want to actually see what persons see, because we think that blind, we kind of just go blind, nobody can see, but there's different levels of blind, right? And so they were showing, like, if you got cataracts, this is what it looks like. I was like, oh, I didn't really know that's what cataracts is, really just kind of constricting, and you can kind of deal with that. Okay, cool. Or when somebody was like, there's certain persons that are blind, and I didn't think about this, but it's like when babies are born, you're not supposed to put them directly in the light. You can damage their eyes, but they see like this. And I didn't realize that's blind for a lot of persons. You don't think about it when you don't have the condition, right? You have to learn how to be empathetic. And so in my learning empathy and learning about the condition, I was like, oh, okay, so some persons, when they're blind, they see light and shadows. And the guy mentioned it. I was like, I don't even know what that really looks like. And then he showed it in glasses, and I was like, oh, you can every once in a while make out a shape, but you can't really see. You can just see this is a light area, this is a dark area, you know? And this is different cultures that pop up as well. You got to realize that you're seeing things through a different lens. To see things through a Eurocentric lens is not to say every European is evil, but you got to recognize what the lens is. You can't tell me that you're French and not realize that the French, the Spanish are the same persons. You can't tell me that you're English and not realize that the English and the Russians are the same person. When you say that you're fighting, that's infighting. You got to look at this different. Same thing with us. When you're talking about the African fighting against the so-called African American, and talking about fighting against the Negro, and fighting against the Moor, and fighting against the Israelite, you got to realize that's infighting. We're the same. Your agenda is my agenda. That's why I got to speak out on it. Their agenda is not. That's why I'm not really as concerned about it unless it's affecting my people. I have to look through the proper lens. No shade. But if you ask me about anybody running for president, all of them are anti my people. They have to be able to get to where they're going. Didn't what's his name? And I'm not even saying this to be coming down on Kamala. Once again, I'm not a Republican, Democrat. I have no dog in the fight. I could care less because it's not going to affect me. I say that in faith. I also say that looking at what has happened over all these presidents who set precedent. None of them are helping us. So I'm not tripping. How you doing, Sister Tanisha? I just want to make that clear, because somebody's going to be like, oh, he mentioned the name, he must be on one side. I don't care. All right. That's not my culture. I don't have a vote for who's going to be over us, because I have a king that's over us, period. Right. That being said, though, everybody's making it, or at least I don't even know if persons are making a big deal about it. I just happened to see, I think it's the Stephen Colbert show. I was watching it. I actually realized, like, oh, persons aren't even laughing that much, blah blah. And while watching it, I saw that what's that's Dick Cheney said he's gonna vote for Kamala. Hola, cómo estás, mi hermana Maria? Uh, uh, I said it yesterday, right? Hola, cómo está, mi hermana Maria? Uh, Gracias por la presencia, I think, right? Okay. So, but I was trying to say, like, yo, I don't. They were like, oh yeah, Dick Cheney. I was like, Dick Cheney's evil. Y'all remember? Everybody was, even Republicans started realizing, like, this dude evil. Like, those who believe that September 11th was something that was planned, right? I won't say what I do and what I don't for this moment. I'm not gonna go down there. But those of you who believe September 11th was planned, Dick Cheney is a huge piece of that puzzle. Dick Cheney, same person that we probably felt was controlling the presidency more than George Bush. Dick Cheney's that person that shot his so-called friend in the face with a shotgun, right? But all that stuff doesn't matter because he's voting for who? For Kamala instead of Trump. And that's a big deal. Why is that a big deal? And if it is a big deal, shouldn't that be something where you're having a moment to say, somebody that pure evil voting for her, I don't know if I even want that. However, what's going to happen, because everybody's so stuck on one side or the other, we're just going to let it fly. It's the same thing when you see, they say, see this former Democrat. Look at what's Kanye's ex, Amber Rose, right? Look at Amber Rose. She's standing tried and true with Donald Trump. Amber Rose is out there. Y'all would have said before this, y'all would have said she for the streets. I'm not saying I'm talking about what y'all would have said. Y'all would have said she for the streets. Now all of a sudden, because she voted for Trump, we supposed to turn around and be like, well, I guess black person should go ahead and buddy up to Trump. No, man. It's evil. We got to go back to the origin of things. It wasn't that long ago that you were calling out Amber Rose. Now all of a sudden, Amber Rose makes it okay to vote for Trump. It wasn't that long ago you were calling out Dick Cheney. Now Dick Cheney is the reason to vote for Kamala Harris. Who cares? You see what I'm saying? You got to go to the origin of this. You say he's afraid of the evil from Trump. Is going to mess up his money. Well, that. And by the way, all of it's about money anyways, right? That's the main reason these persons are running for anything. Like you got to, this is why you got to learn a little bit about the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, something, right? Anytime somebody goes to prison, they're making money. It's always about money, right? And we believe that money is real. Therefore, we're into the artificial, and we believe in our artificial person rather than in our natural person. So since we believe in our artificial person, doing business through the artificial person, getting the LLCs and getting the trust, so we can have an artificial person that we can be slave masters over to make sure that they can get in trouble before us. And we're in an artificial person called the United States Corporation, 28 USC 3002, 15 subsection A. We're all right with being artificial persons, having artificial lives, living artificial structure, and disregarding the natural infrastructure that supersedes these conquerors. How you doing, TC Patterson? Thanks for being part of the community. See, when you realize who you are in your nature, there's certain things that are unnatural for you. It is unnatural for me to cape up for any of these cats. I will defend, look, as much as we might not like it, Kamala Harris, whether you believe her daddy is an Indian who was born in Jamaica or whatever, even Indian persons, by the way, are African. But that being said, right, because I get the history behind it and the histrionics behind it and the mentality behind it and how even the slave master got us to fight against them and them to fight against us and then to believe that they're better than us and for us to believe now we're better than them. Same Willie Lynch stuff. Don't forget that. Same Willie Lynch stuff. You know, that's that same Willie Lynch stuff that will have it to where if somebody was NOI and was ready to feed your family, you wouldn't eat of it because you say they're eat NOI. But if somebody is government assistance and they're willing to feed your family, you'll go ahead and eat of them while they're giving you fake food. I don't believe we should be NOI, but hear what I'm saying. If an NOI brother who looks like me is willing to give me something out of the kindness of his heart, and I shut it down because I want to go ahead and get something from the beast, because that shows that I'm more pious than the NOI brother, something is wrong with me. Uh-oh. Right? Because I could get it. If you said, no, I'm just going to trust in Yah, or I'm going to go to an Israelite and get something, if that's your mindset, so be it. But that's not what we do. We say, I won't take something from the NOI brother. I won't take anything from the Hebrew Israelite. I won't take anything from the Moor. I won't take anything from this person. You know, they crazy. They out there. The CIA is after them. The FBI is after them. But let the government come that is the beast that has put you in this position in the first place. And you can't wait to eat out of the palm of their hand. Something wrong. How you doing, Taqwa? Right? Something's up. You will not eat out of the palm. You will eat out of the palm of their hand, but will not eat from your brother or your sister. Right? And we've been conditioned that's more powerful. We've been conditioned that's righteous. We've been conditioned that's what we're supposed to do. You can have a brother that doesn't believe in a higher power at all. If he'll feed you, why would you not take what he has genuinely from somebody who says, I'll feed you as long as you don't get married? In the 1920s, 1930s, we were okay living in farmland and stuff like that. Somebody came by and said, we'll give you $15 more a month if the husband leaves the house. This was a plan. They had a vision. They have a order. They have a structure to it. We are the ones that are outside the pocket, that don't have a natural order, that are not looking for natural progression, right? Regardless of how you feel about LGBTQ plus, guess what? They plan better than you. Thank you for the love. You can be upset with me all you want when I say that. They plan better than you. You think the rainbow just started happening? We just went through that in our rainbow series. 1976 or 1978, one of the two. Back then, the pink Jesus cat that you saw in the pictures with Obama, when we showed it, they had that plan since the 1970s for you to remove a color of the rainbow and sometimes even see the pink over it. And the pink over, the person supposed to be worshipped is pink Jesus, an actual human being who's highly credited in their society. This is something they've been planning. You think it was accidental that you screamed, and I believe that Black Lives Matter, but I never joined the organization. But yes, and you can check the record on that. This stuff is posted. You can see exactly what my position was. Has not changed. Black lives do matter, and we should make sure that we teach that Black lives matter, because we've been taught they do not. That being said, everybody was getting mad at us when some of us were saying, hey man, this organization is not what you think. It's not what you think. And hey, you're hearing them say this now and attaching it. And now all of a sudden, Black Lives Matter has become a movement for everybody else except Black lives. And if Black lives matter so much, shouldn't everybody be pushing up Black lives? There was even a guy, some of you might know him from FS1 on sports. He used to be on something called Speak for Yourself. Now it's turned into some kind of NFL thing that they do at the same time as First Take, if you know what I'm talking about, on FS1. His name is Emmanuel Acho, and his whole responsibility is to always, not just on that show, but to always cape up for being anti-Black while being from Nigeria. He done lost his mind. They colonized over there too, by the way, right? They all about their money. A lot of Nigerians, not all, but a lot of Nigerians have been taught to be about money, 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 and that's it, right? So he comes over here, or maybe born over here, not sure. No. I think he's born. I'm not sure. He might have been. I think he was born over here. His parents from there. He's from Texas, Dallas, I believe. And he was sitting up there in 2020, making it a point to have stars like Matthew McConaughey, who would come on the show and they'd be saying Black Lives Matter, but then they come on the show and they say stuff like, well, how long are we really supposed to keep saying this? Is this ever going to end? It's tiring for us to be out here talking about your lives matter. And he would be like, that's a great point. This, and that. No, it's not a great point. Our lives matter even when you don't think they do. Right? But you see what I'm saying? But this whole Black Lives Matter movement, it was co-opted, and really it wasn't co-opted, it was started by them. We didn't like it when conservatives, so-called conservatives, said this, but it was true. We didn't like it when so-called conservatives said this, but it was true. What am I talking about? We did not like it when so-called conservatives would say stuff like, hey, you know, Black Lives Matter is behind blah, blah. Now, we knew they were saying that because they were on their all lives matter tip, but you didn't even pay attention to the truth because you were like, they said it. Once again, I'm not here to say Republican and Democrats better. I'm trying to tell you and teach you, you got to go to the origin. Forget who's Republican or Democrat. What is the origin? Is it truth? Does the truth lie in origin? Does it lie in any kind of origin or not? Is there any truth to this? Should we be concerned that this stuff is going on? Or should we just keep letting it slide like it's nothing? You said, what does NOI stand for? Nation of Islam. Right? Now, and all this stuff that was going on, now we're not even talking about the fact that Black Lives Matter is a week, has just basically broken itself down to where now it ain't nothing more than a once a week teaching in your child's school. Sometimes it's 2 weeks straight. And they have it on different levels, from preschool to kindergarten to first grade through sixth grade to seventh and eighth grade to high school to college. Everybody's supposed to take 1 to 2 weeks to talk about Black Lives Matter, and they don't. And this is the Black Lives Matter pyramid. There's 13 things that are on the pyramid to be taught, and only 4 of them actually mention Black lives. And even in the 4, it'll say stuff like this. Well, like it'll say something like the black woman. It'll say, well, the black woman is somebody who's been, you know, um, mistreated. She's not respected. She should have more. She should get more respect, et cetera, et cetera. And then it'll say, but there are many types of women. What do you think that means? And then it starts to defend the many different types of women. That's not Black Lives Matter. That's the Black Lives Matter organization, but that's not Black Lives Matter. It's the same way they use your Bible. You know, they come and they say this stuff. It's the same way they use your Bible against you. It's the same. I know you don't want to hear that. It is the same exact way that they use this Bible against you constantly and consistently. It is. They keep telling you over and over again, oh, yeah, it's about the Bible and the Bible's true, this and that. But don't start talking about it from your perspective. Real talk. Everything in the Bible is true. Oh, okay. So then it talks about Christ, and it says that basically he looks the same as the way that you guys in Europe describe the Moors. Oh, no. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It was all right when you was just going down the yellow brick road, but oh, wait a minute, you starting to think that this Bible actually means something, and that the people mean something, and that Paul, or wait a minute, you found in Romans, I know we keep using Paul, but wait a minute, you found where Paul said that the law is sinless. You wait a minute. You found that the law should be for those who have a circumcised heart, and if they have a fleshly heart, then the law is messed up. Oh, wait a minute. You found that it says you can't get rid of Israel, and if you do, Elohim wants you to forbid that type of thought process. See, now when you get to your origin, you get to act to the natural order and start having a natural progressive way of thought. Oh, now we gotta turn that off. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah, now color doesn't matter. In your iconoclast period, it surely did, right? Because you were trying to change it into Caesarea Borgia. You were trying to change the Messiah into him. Now, though, the persons are coming to the truth. It does not matter. Why does it not matter? It mattered for centuries. We know it truly never mattered. And by the way, we don't think it matters as far as salvation. We believe it matters as far as the truth. If everything in the Bible is true, then how do you get up in your Christian pulpit and say it doesn't matter? You're a liar. You're an antichrist. Right? You believe that it matters the way that a woman touched the hem of his garment, but you don't believe that the color that was on the skin that she touched mattered. Come on, who you think you're playing with? You believe that it's important that when Mary hugged Elizabeth, that John jumped up in the womb, and you'll preach of it, and so do I. But then it doesn't matter what color they were. You believe that the Bible says that there's a chosen people. As long as you get to be the chosen people, it doesn't matter what happens to the actual chosen people, because watch this, because you have built Christianity on enslaving the chosen people. That's why it doesn't matter to you, because those people never matter to you. Black Lives Matter is an assault on the Democratic Church and an assault on the Republican Church. Cut it on. It's the truth. You can be mad at me all you want, but I'm going to go back to the nature of things. I want to go back to the nature of things, beloved, because Yahweh wants us to go back to the nature of things, right? Never have I ever, never have I ever never have I ever taught or believed that because somebody is a certain color than somebody, they are automatically righteous. However, never have I ever believed that if I see somebody in the color of their skin, I should pretend that it doesn't exist. Amen, Sister Keita. How you doing? Right? How you doing, Tabitha? Come on, somebody. Right? Like never have I ever. See, this is mental health issues. Where you are supposed to be a follower of the Most High and you're okay with lying. How you doing, Sister Deja? If I had my way, you be on that whiteboard, you be on that blackboard writing 100 times, I will not tell lies. Because we're not supposed to. It's not even natural for us. Look, in the world, it was natural for me to lie. I was the greatest of liars. Real talk. Some of y'all, Pastor Kofi, you lie. I was the greatest of liars. That's why I know how important the truth is. You couldn't outlie me back then. Some of y'all be on your lie tips and stuff, and you be like, my husband said, my wife said, and I'd be like, I don't even get, if you notice sometimes I don't even flinch, because in my mind, I'm like, man, that's even, I get it. It's a lie and it hurts and I can hear it. But at the same time, in my mind, my flesh stepping sometimes it'd be like, that ain't even nothing. I done told, right? I never cheated and stuff, but a lie can be worse than cheating. I done said some lies, some doozies in my day to my parents, this and that, and stole from folk, all this stuff, right? I deserve, just because when I went to prison, I didn't deserve what I went to prison for, doesn't mean that I haven't done things in life that I don't deserve prison. Like Paul said, I'm chief sinner. It's not that difficult for me to listen. Cats be sitting up there, Pastor Kofi, I didn't really want to talk to you about it. And I be listening to them, and they tell me what it is. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to admit. And then first of all, I'm like, I'm just a man. Why would you think that I can judge your salvation or something? But I didn't want to tell you I was going through this and blah blah. And then when they finally tell me, I don't even think they get it. They think sometimes it's just like, oh, he's so humble. He's so in my flesh. I'd be like, that's what you did. You know what I'm saying? Just give it a buck. Sometimes I'm like okay. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, they must not know me. Cause I just be like, I'm be sitting there listening. I'm like, that. Did I even tell them? They don't even catch it. I'd be like, man, you have a great heart. Because what I'm really saying, it's like bless your heart, but it's more so like bless your heart towards me. Because in my mind, I'm like, you have a great heart. Because what I'm really saying sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes when I say that, I'm sitting there saying, oh, I done did worse than that. Right? Even if I didn't do it, you know what I be thinking sometimes? I done thought worse than that. And in our culture, if you think it, you did it. So who am I to judge you? Man, I did this and I'm not even gonna hold you, man. I swung and I swung and I caught him. I caught him. They was talking trash and they said it and I was angry and I caught him. I'm like, I wouldn't even spoke. I wouldn't even let him talk. You back in the day, I don't use this word that much anymore, but back in the day I would have said you a good one for that. You one of the good ones for that. I wouldn't even said that. I wouldn't even let him come into my presence. It would have been on and popping. You see what I'm saying? But we forget. But once again, I've gone back to my origin. I've gone back past that perversion of me that wasn't that I've gone back past that perversion of me, that perverted version of me. I know that's not exactly what it means, but hear what I'm saying. I've gone back past that perversion of me to go to the original version of me. And so the original version of me that you see, and it's getting closer. I'm not there yet, but as I get closer to the original version, many of you can't even think about the version that I was at one point. But see, we pulling a Benjamin, what is it, Benjamin Button, right? We pulling a Benjamin Button on him. See, Benjamin Button, as he got older, he got younger. As he got older, he got back to what was original. Everybody else, they get away from their original birth self. He got closer to what you would have thought would have been his original self. See, and for us, we got to recognize and realize what's going on. Yah is getting you back to being born again and getting back to what you should have been before the foundations of the world were poisoned by sin. And so now we're getting back to that original self. And so persons are only seeing you as the cute. Look at them. Oh, they're nurtured. They got the sincere milk. They help things out. They're so healthy. They're loving. They're kind. This and that. They don't know anything of the sin stuff yet. But no, I know about it, but I've gone so far away from it. I fasted. I become more separate. I become faster away from it, right? And as I am now away from it, more than I ever have been before, I don't look the same. I don't sound the same. I don't operate the same because I've had a natural progression back to my origin. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Salah. We're going back to our origin. If you listen to me and you are still chief sinner, that's okay. Go back to your origin. If you and your wife been fighting, it's okay. Go back to your origin. If you can't stand to see what you see in the mirror and you want to go to something different that you know is better for you and what you're supposed to be, that's okay. Go back to your origin. You might discover that who shows up is your original self, the goal for you to be. When you start really putting it together and putting that vision plan together, you might realize the person you see in the mirror is something you didn't expect because it's going to exceed your thought process. Exceeding abundantly now unto him. That's why he's got to be involved. His nature and your nature have to be lockstep in one, locked in. Now unto him who is able to do, how you doing, Sister Kira? Unto him that's able to do what exceeding abundantly above all that you could ask or think. You're not asking the Most High things based off of what you want. You're asking the Most High because whatever you have the audacity to ask him, he's going to do something greater than what you ask. Every time. Every time. Move. I don't know if I can say it the exact same way, but we're going to try. Let's rewind. Look, when you're asking the Most High, when you're praying to him, when you're giving your petition, you're not praying to the Most High because, oh, I'm getting ready for this and that, and I want exactly this. No, come to him with what you want. Come to him with what you think. Come to him with your greatest dreams and desires, if it be his will, of course. Don't ask amiss. However, when you come to him, his goal, his desire is not to bless you or to barakti where you are. His goal is to exceed your expectations in all things. Now unto him, Ephesians 3:21, I believe, right? Now, or Ephesians 3:20, somewhere around there. Now unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly, not exceedingly and abundantly. It exceeds your abundance. Whatever you think abundance is, he's greater than that. His goal for you is greater than that. Whatever you think your origin is, it's greater than what you think it is. He's exceeding abundantly above all. Anything that means above all things that you think he has for you, he has something above all. Come on, hashtag expect the blessing. Come on, right? Hashtag even receive the blessing. Right? Are you ready to start thinking about things that whatever you think is best, you're going to give him your best, because when you give him your best, he has to exceed it every time. How you doing, Minister Michelle? Right? When you give him your best, he has to exceed it every time. Every single time. He must. Not he's exceedingly and abundantly doing something. He's exceeds abundance. Whatever your overflow, you think overflow looks like, he must make it wetter. Whatever you think that money in your account's going to be, he must make sure that it's better for you than what you think it is. Whatever you think technology is going to be that you're going to put together, he's going to make something greater. Whatever you think this SOC family is going to look like at 5 to 10 years, when we really start moving on the way that's going to really mess with their mind, he said it's going to be better. Might I say something? Can I brag? I'm going to brag on y'all, but it's going to sound like I'm patting myself on the back. But can I brag? Just for a second? Hey, SOC, I would submit to many of you. Now, there's some that obviously disagree. There's some that have left. Those of you that are still with us and been with us for a while, can I be honest with you? Tell me, has it been your experience with us made your life greater, the same, or less than? Be honest. I'm not saying have you not gone through any struggles. Yes, you'll go through struggles. But but is your life greater because you connected with the teachings of Yah? Not the teachings of Kofi, but the teachings of Yah. The life of Yahushua, not the life of Kofi. Right? If it's been greater, then that's a testament. That's a testimony. That's a test. There's a natural test that goes on that says that, hey, you've come up since you've been part of this. And even when persons leave, there's certain things that they will never be able to see and hear the same. Why? Because you were a part of what happened here. That's a sign that what we're doing is greater, because if the fruit is greater. If the fruit tastes greater, if the seed planted ends up growing greater, if your mind has become greater, if your spiritual walk has become greater, if this feels like a family that you might not have had, even if you haven't met a whole bunch of the family in person, then that means it's greater. That means that we must be on track. All honor and glory to the Most High. Yes, Pastor Kofi could be the vessel. Yes, Elder Alma could be the vessel. Yes, many of us are vessels, even behind the scenes for one another. Praise Yah for each and every one of you, right? But it's greater. Look, these babies and these adults are fitting to come together October 17th through the 24th and take over a whole area behind somebody's house, and then take over a whole area in park ground, praising the Most High, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Last year, the baptism, right, when we did the baptism, strangers were stopping and praising the Most High Yah because they saw us going into the water. What we do, it affects others. You are growing in the UK. You are growing in Australia. You are growing in Africa. There are persons that we haven't even been on their platforms for a while who are begging for your presence to come back, because they know wherever you show up, multiplication shows up. Why? Because you are the wife of the Most High Yah. And as a wife, they know in our culture that we multiply what our husband gives you. And if your husband gives you exceeding and abundant, if your husband gives you exceeding, I'm sorry, I had to have a cirque moment. I'm sorry. If your husband gives you exceeding and abundantly above all you can ever ask or think, he's giving it to you because he knows you're about to multiply it. That means you're about to come up on a level to multiply something that you didn't even know you could multiply, let alone receive. When we say receive, you got to receive in faith. You got to receive in faith, because I have faith that Yah's about to give me something that doesn't even make sense for me, but he still trusts me enough to multiply what doesn't even make sense, which means that my sense is going to have to grow. My five sense is going to have to become a sixth sense. My sixth sense is going to have to go into 7 dimensions. My 7 dimensions is going to have to go into 8 realms, whatever your thought process is. It's going to have to expand, because kingdoms expand. Anything he gives me is because it's time for expansion. Come on. Come on. Anything he gives me is because it's time for expansion. My greatness. Come on, somebody. Bless his name. Barak Atsham Yahweh. Bless his name. Bless his holy name. Bless my soul and all that's within me. Magnify. Focus on Yahweh. See, we keep saying magnify, make him greater. He's already great. When it says magnify, it means focus on him. Yes, you multiply, but you multiply when you magnify because you're actually zooming in. If you have a microscope and you magnify it, it's bigger through the lens of the microscope, but it's only bigger because you zoomed in. Come on, somebody. You zoomed in. Zoom in. Magnify Yahweh with me, and let us exalt his authority, his name together. Our soul shall make her boast in Yahweh. The humble shall hear, and they shall be glad. That's why we magnify, because I'm glad I came across somebody, and I see that you're about to increase, and you're about to, this is the Oprah thing. You get an increase, and you get an increase, and you get an increase, and now Yahweh says, bring it all together, and we become a body of increase. That's why you're still here. Trigger warning, but whoever needs to hear this, that's why you're still here. You tried to take your life, but you couldn't take it. Or even when you wanted to, it wasn't time. Why? Because you are ready to increase. The devil's on you because he knows increase is coming. And if increase is coming, that means the kingdom of heaven must expand. If the kingdom of heaven must expand, that means his kingdom is not in demand. It means that he's losing. Of course he's going to attack you. You think somebody's going to just let you take their kingdom? Now, we allow Yah to take our kingdom, but really he's not taking our kingdom. He's the one that gave us the kingdom we have. He is the King of Kings. He is the Lord of Lords. The Lord part is talking about that he owns a territory. He owns a territory. So he put in the territory that he gave you. He gives you the territory. That's the only reason you're the Lord. You are a Lord because he is your Lord. The second he's no longer your Lord, the devil is your Lord. So be excited when he's about to give you exceeding and abundantly. We talked about this the other day. I forget the scripture we were in. We were talking about how literally Yah can give you, where were we at in scripture? Oh, I can't recall. But we were talking about in scripture the other day where Yah literally will give us, I think it might have been, it's probably Ezekiel 36 or Ezekiel 39. Those are the two that we were asked about by somebody yesterday, right? And then we even went into Zechariah 13. So it's one of those. If you want to look at it, what did we do? We read Ezekiel 36, 16 through 38, Ezekiel 39, 21 through 29. Oh, no, Ezekiel 36, verses 16 through 38. We read Ezekiel 39, verses 21 through 29. And then we read Zechariah chapter 13. And please forgive me, I can't recall the verses. It might have been Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8. And maybe we added verse 9. Right? So if you want to study what I'm talking about, feel free to find it in there. And we talked about Ezekiel 34, 35, 36, 37. And then we skipped over to 39. So we talked about the progression of it as well. So that's from Sunday Q&A. So look back a couple of days. You should be able to find that if you want to go through and listen to that and catch that somewhere. Fast forward to find that in the midst of that. I feel like it's like within the last hour of what we did. I could be wrong. Maybe the last hour and a half. That being said, where am I at? Sorry. That being said, there was a scripture. Excuse me. There was a scripture that we were reading. And in that scripture, it makes it a point to say, that Yah is going to give you something that seems to be small to others. But because he gave it to you, it's going to increase. And it says that others will see that what he gave us increase, and then they will know. That might be Ezekiel 39. It's either one of those scriptures, like I said, Ezekiel 36, 39, or Zechariah 13. But it says persons will know who we are because while we were in captivity, Yah gave us a little something. And that little something expanded and expanded and expanded. And we came to, and we kept on getting better and stronger. We kept on giving knowledge, and persons were looking up to us in the midst of our captivity. Somehow, some way, Yahweh was looking out for us, and we kept on growing, we kept on moving, and now we become greater than what we were before. Right? In the midst of your captivity, magnify. In the midst of your captivity, magnify. You hear what I'm saying? In the midst of your captivity, magnify, focus. Focus on where he's about to take you. Stop talking all this stuff. It can't happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Magnify, focus. In this moment, in this season in life, in this season of Israel, as the transition is coming through and persons are recognizing who we are, and now we're finding so much evidence we can't deny it. We can't deny that if it says in Roe Gets the Source, 1834, that if you are a Negro, which we know what the Negro is, if you're a Negro, it literally says in that the source that you are the children of the Most High. We can't deny that. We can't deny Negro land and Guinea, a map that existed to the 1800s. And it says that the scattered Israelites were there and the kingdom of Judah was there. We can't deny that Negroes were considered to be persons who followed the Torah and put poetry over music on street corners and had locks, and they believed in making sure that they were husband to one wife and they loved women. They weren't bisexual, and they were that was said by those in the Spanish Inquisition and the Portuguese. We're getting to a place where you can't deny you have E1B1A blood, and therefore the same stuff that we're finding of those who were supposed to be the slaves that were buried in Kemet, and the same things that we're finding of those who were buried in Israel is the same blood and the same features and the same stuff that you're finding of those of us who are over in the United States of America, brought over here on ships. Right? You can't deny it anymore. It's getting to a place to where you got to magnify. This is the season to focus. Every race, I'm talking about political race, every single political race that's going on right now, every single one is nothing more than a distraction to stop you from magnifying. That's it. Every time you're getting ready to go to the microscope and you realize it's blurry, that's all you do, right? Forgive me, I'm old school. I don't know about the new microscopes, but old school, right? Even the ones I have now are old school microscopes. If you're trying to magnify something, you got to click around, you got to, shift it, right? You got to turn that little circular piece, right? And all is there, all the stuff is right there in front of us. We're seeing blur. We're seeing blindly, so to speak. We're seeing dimly. But now all you got to do is turn on the light. Yahashua is the light. You are supposed to be the light, even, right? You turn on the light, and then all you got to do is magnify. And every time you get ready to turn, what did Kamala say? You ever seen, it's like a movie. You ever seen, like in a movie, somebody could find the truth about something, they could stop the disease from spreading. They could sure enough find the truth about themselves, and they get ready to find it, and somebody says something like, "Oh," and then they leave, and then they show in the movie that the screen that they were looking through, they show if they had just stayed and looked and not been distracted, they would have seen it right there. Amen. Come on now. Like Minister Nice preached on Saturday, right? Stop magnifying the losses of the system and magnify the kingdom of heaven. Ah, come on, Minister Nice. Come on, Minister Shante. Magnify. Zoom in. Now's not the time to get distracted. The I was gonna say the petri dish. Sorry, the slide is right in front of you, right? The slide is right there, right? You've already sprayed it to make sure that it's not gonna move. You're gonna be able to see this thing the way it's supposed to be. Now's the time to magnify, right? Yes, I know persons are saying magnify, increase, but it's increasing by zooming in. You're zooming in and getting increased knowledge because it looks through, and oh my greatness, in the microscope. We almost finished. In the microscope, how you doing, Brother Dwayne? When you look through the microscope and it magnifies, right? When you look in the microscope and it magnifies, unless you're looking through the microscope, sometimes they might have a screen nowadays so others can see it. Unless you are looking through the microscope, the person who looks through is the person who sees what's magnified. If you don't look through the right scope or the right prism, come on, somebody. If I don't look through the right scope, the right prism, I can't see what's magnified. No matter how big it is, it has the opportunity to be in front of me. If I don't look through the scope properly, it's not magnified. How you doing, Jay? I'm gonna say it one more again. I promise you. I gotta release this. If I don't look through the right scope, it is not magnified. So when we say magnify Yahweh with me and let us exalt his name together, I got to look through the right scope. Do you hear what I'm saying? The scope, the lens has to be proper. I can't look through everybody. Look, if Yah says this is, I put the lens or I put the sheet, whatever, forgive me, I'm forgetting the technical term. But if I put the sheet right here under this scope, if you look through this scope, you cannot find what he put under this scope. So if I'm magnifying Yahweh here, and you're magnifying Yahweh here, right? But the scope he told us to magnify is here, and I say, oh, magnify Yahweh with me and let us exalt his name together. But you say, well, I'm gonna look through this scope or this prism. You cannot magnify him with me. You will not magnify. Even if your intent is to magnify him, if we're magnifying him here, but you're over here talking about, I'm going to look through a different scope, but Yah is under this one, his word is under this one, his will is under this one, but you're magnifying him under this one. I'm sorry, beloved, you're not going to find it. Right? The scope matters. The culture matters. The nature matters. The natural order matters. Many persons will never have a great marriage because they keep looking under the scope of the world. I saw an interesting statistic, by the way. It's for educational purposes only. Moderators, please help your boy out. Because just in case somebody's going to come on here thinking that I'm down on somebody, y'all know how I feel about this. I have no heaven or hell to put you in. At the end of the day, though, truth is truth. Maybe some of you have heard about this statistic floating around. Not sure. But there was a statistic talking about marriages. Y'all know that, especially during COVID, divorce rates in certain areas increased to like 75%. It's getting crazy, right? Before that, it was like at 50%. It's gone down to about 50%, which I guess praise Yah that it's going back down to the worldly average. No, not the worldly average. I guess the system's average of the world of America, because the world of the earth, especially outside of the West, their marriage is 7% divorce rate. you know, it's starting to lift up because persons are starting to follow the example of the West. But anyways, I was looking at an interesting divorce rate thing. So I'll go. I'm only going to use, because when you go into what we might call a trans marriage or a queer marriage or whatever, if the persons are even trying to attempt it, I don't know if there's even a lawful thing as that yet. But if you look at a gay marriage or a lesbian marriage, which by law, we're talking about legalist stuff of the world, right? A very interesting percentage rate. If we were to take the gay marriage, the straight marriage, and the lesbian marriage, and look at the percentages of divorce, it's very interesting. When it comes to the straight marriage, the divorce rate is 50%. As I just said, it's gone down. It's still way too high. Any percentage is really technically way too high, but hey, sin is entered into the world. What can you do about that, right? We can do something by separating from the world. But that being said, when it comes to the gay marriage, lesbian marriage, do you know that the divorce rate jumps up to 75%? I've been telling y'all, eventually there's going to be some numbers that pop up, and we're going to have a way to actually see by numbers, see by percentage what's going on. How you doing, Snatch Sloan? Right? So when we look at stuff through the lens of these proper statistics, that persons just kept saying, hey, this stuff works. Who knows if it's worse, if it's better, blah, blah. We're starting to see. And by the way, that's them being nice, right? That's them being nice. If we go by sex is marriage, marriage is sex, and these divorce rates for everybody pops up and creeps up to astronomical numbers. But when two women get together and a man and a woman get together, divorce rate is going to be 75% for the two women. Right. They don't want us to see the details. Come on. They don't want you to magnify So you go to all these events and you got all this stuff, and well, it's just no, no. When now that they're starting to do the same thing that they do with the straight stuff, and they're starting to say, let's magnify. Well, let's see if that's you said this is better. You said this is who you are. You said you called. And when we listen, please forgive me. Trigger warning. Once again, I have no heaven or hell to put you in. I'm just giving you magnification. Maybe you're not aware of this. Maybe your son or your daughter might need you to, if they start having some of this ideology creep in, you need to be able to teach them this as well. Because they're not going to learn it at school, and they're not going to learn it from the person who's sexually perverted. Right? So, real talk. When you had a situation going on and you start speaking on this, let them know. Let's magnify on it. You might have to say to them, hey, um, there's actually videos of persons, forgive me, what is it called? Um, is it the person who's butch, or forgive my language, butch dyke? I don't know if that's a bad thing to call them, whatever. But that's what I hear persons call themselves sometimes. Maybe they're allowed to say it. I'm not. If I'm out of order, I don't mean to be. Um, right? But they would say that they're butch, they're dyke, or they're more masculine. And they're coming out and they're starting to have, I think there's a famous one creeping around now where there's a real big time social media influencer. And she's been out here and she'll say stuff like, hey, you know what? I was a person, I'm attracted to women. I want to be with them, blah, blah. But to be honest with you, like, there's certain things that I don't get out of this relationship that if I was with a man, I would get, because there's certain things that in the natural order of things, he's supposed to do. See, he's supposed to provide a certain amount of stuff. He's supposed to give a certain level of comfort. And then when he does that, I'm supposed to lift him up. And she said, yeah, you know what? I'm starting to go back with guys now. And there's been multiple stuff that's happening where persons there. There's multiple persons who were male. There's a male, I can't recall his name. He's a black guy, so-called black man. And he's was trans and it was famous for all the stuff, transitioning and stuff. He went ahead and got the surgery. Didn't get the surgery down there, praise God, but he got the surgery up top, whatever. And now he's coming out. Okay, it's called studs. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's what she called herself. And so, but then stuff like that, or you had a guy and he was like saying he was going to be a woman, this and that. And now I think he's still misguided. I think he still needs some persons to teach him properly, because he's kind of preaching and representing. And I'm glad he's being a living sacrifice in front of everybody publicly, if that's what Yah has called him to do, and what Ravak Hakwatash is leading him to do. But he still has some knowledge he needs to gain. That being said, he's been making a point to say, hey, I realize this is twisted. I realize, like, person should have talked to me before they just automatically told me to get this done. My psychologist was wrong. The psychiatric stuff that I went through and the medicine I was given was wrong. My parents shouldn't have just given into this. I shouldn't have done right. We're starting to learn as we're magnifying, as it's magnified, as we're focusing on it. Persons are starting to come out and say, hey, it's wrong. There's plenty of persons in other countries, right? In England, I believe, maybe, I don't know about France. I think England is one place where they have nationwide lawsuits where persons whose parents let this stuff happen, now they're suing all the companies and they're suing their parents, saying that you guys shouldn't have allowed this to happen. You've messed us up. We won't be able to do certain things. We can't have babies anymore. Or you've taken away our ability, if we even are able to have a child, to never be able to breastfeed or do things like that, right? Like, we're starting to see now magnified. Should have been magnified before, but everybody was acting like magnification didn't matter. Now we have no choice. You got to magnify. It's coming out. How you doing, Sister Teresa? How you doing, Everett? See, now we're in a place to where you got to magnify. See, we should be magnifying. What's that scripture? Psalm 34? I believe Psalm 34. Let's see the order of things, because verse 1 gets to where you, before you magnify. Verse 1 and verse 2 it gets to be, it should be there before you what? Magnify. A slow signal today. Okay, somebody might have to get that. Somebody might have to pull that up for me. I'm having an issue. We're almost finished, so I don't want to run to the car again and grab my sword. I should have had it already. Forgive me. Okay, I got there. Psalm 34. Oh, no, that's not it. It is Psalm 34, verse 3 is where it says, oh, magnify. Oh, no, I'm right. Yeah, Psalm 34, verse 1. Excuse me. We're in the right place. All right, Psalm 34, verse 1. Let's look at this. Maybe we'll go all the way to verse 8 today. Maybe we won't. But Psalm 34, verse 1, 34th division of Psalm. Some of you even got the Bible to where it only has Psalm, Proverbs, and then everything starts at Matthew, right? But you should be able to find Psalms. It's usually kind of sort of the middle of your Bible if you have an Apocrypha slightly over. If you don't know where it is, just look in your table of contents. Psalm 34, verse 1. Come on, y'all ready? Everybody got it? I want to make sure that y'all have it, or at least you're listening. This is going to bless you now. I want to make sure we roll on this together. Psalm 34, verse 1. Y'all ready? Hopefully you got it. Prayerfully you got it. All right. Psalm 34. Psalm 34 and verse 1. This is what David Malachi, or King David, he had to change his behavior before Abimelech, who drove him away, and he departed. Okay? Psalm 34 and verse 1. David says, I will, what? Barak Yahweh at all times. I will, what? Barak Yahweh at all times. I will what? I will bless Yahweh at all times. His praise continually in my mouth, or as it says for us with the italics, his praise shall continually be in my mouth. In other words, how he would like for me to lift him up shall always come out of every word that I speak. And what is David doing? He's changing or correcting his behavior. He's changing the lens he's been looking through things. The lens he's been looking through caused him to be cursed. He's trying to get back into the blessing, back into Barak. And so in order to be Barak, he has to change the scope. So I got to get back to, he's not even trying to get to, he's trying to get back to the origin. See, in his original self, David got where he was because this is what he did. He got out of order. We used to be here and we got out of order. Come on, y'all. Don't miss this. All right. Psalm 34, verse 1, once again, right? I will barak Yahweh at all times, his praise continually in my mouth. My soul, my nachavash, my psyche, even, Psyche in the Greek, P-S-Y-C-H-E, means soul. My soul, who I am, the essence of who I am, the thing that connects my spirit to my flesh, right? That makes me whole. My holy self, my holistic self, my whole self, my soul shall make her boast in who? Yahweh, not anybody else. The problem, Minister Anais always reminds me that the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. I might have said that in reverse, but y'all know what I'm saying, right? Respecting Yahweh is what makes you wise in everything. You don't get to a place where you start comprehending who am I if you know who you were made by. You don't get to a place of trying to figure out, should somebody enter into you or should you enter into somebody else if you know who you are. You're not trying to see if your fruit is righteous or not if you know what righteous fruit is. You're not going to sit there and make bananas and then try to compare yourself to an apple tree if you know that you come from bananas. Apple trees can grow in a few different places. Bananas, you got to go to tropical climate. You're not going to try. Come on, somebody. You're not going to sit there and talk about, hey, let me put the cactus in Alaska, knowing that the cactus goes in the desert. We have to go back to the natural order, the natural progression, the natural vision, the nature of who you are. This is a natural test. Oh my greatness. I thought we were going to be done by now. I'm just going to be obedient. I'm going to have to do some extra work today. Y'all pray for me. This is very clear. We haven't even gotten to what I thought was going to be the end yet. Because Yahweh's still telling me, I'm still hearing Holy Ghost say, hey, this is still going to be the ending point. So we still got to hit a couple things real quick, right? But just hear me, beloved. How you doing, TC? Hear me, beloved. Right? Hear the word of Yahweh, beloved. My soul shall make her boast in Yahweh. And who shall hear? The humble, those who have humbled themselves. Humble doesn't mean be a doormat. It means put yourself in your position. Play your part, Israel. Play your part. 3 stacks. Play your heart. Protect your heart. Play your part. Play your part. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Hear what I'm saying? Play your part. Thank you for the love. What is my part of the body? I support the ears. I'm not trying to be the ears if I'm the toe. Play your part. The ear, right? I need the ear to be in position anyways, because let the ear get an ear infection or let somebody get a busted eardrum. See how easy it is being the toe there. What is your lane? Humble yourself. How you doing, Brother Kofi? I'm sorry for not saying something earlier. Humble yourself. What is your part? Why are you trying to be more than what you're supposed to be? Why are you trying to be less than what you're supposed to be? Powerless versus the powerful. What is your lane? And how well do you run in it? Where are you in the relay race? Not everybody can be the leg. Not everybody can be the anchor. Not everybody gonna be the starting point. We do this in a lot of preaching, in a lot of events that we have. Order and structure, especially when we have multiple preachers preaching on the same day, or even if we have an event and we're doing like, hey, we want this person to preach here, 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 here. I don't have to be the last person, right? And I know my position to play. So if Minister Tamara comes to me, I'm just using you as an example, sis. If she comes to me and she says, hey, I'm gonna do this year, and I want you to preach in the 7 last sayings. I want you to preach the 4th word, right? The 4th word is basically the center of it. So I know there's an ebb and flow. So when it gets to the center, my responsibility is not to try and be better than anybody, first of all, but also my responsibility is not to try and be like, hey, well, I'm gonna just take over, and this is what preachers do. I want to just take over and I'm gonna be better than everybody else. No, there's a flow. And so yes, we want things to go up, but also things go up. They don't go up on a on a graph like this. On a graph, they go up like this, right? So even though it's going up, there's ebbs and flows. So the second word, the third word might even be a little this and that or whatever, but they're still leading us up to this. But when we get to the midpoint, we want to at least see some growth. So cool. But I also want to recognize that I want to leave some stuff out and do some things because I want whoever's given that last final word, I want them to shine because all of us are going to shine, and it's designed for all of us to continue to reach a crescendo together. So by the time we get to Passover, we're riding high rather than, hey, I try to take over and do this. And maybe I get everybody excited. But if I do that, then I take away from Passover. Why would I do that? I take away from those preaching behind me and those preaching before me. Why would I do that? So my goal and my responsibility in being in the center is this. But if somebody says, give the first word, okay, cool. I'm going to give you a shot. I'm going to start off things great. I'm going to run fast, but then I know I got to pass it on. So I'm going to stop at a certain point and pass it on so somebody else might be able to execute where we're going. Right? Even in preaching, even in something like that, my mind is what? To make sure that I humble myself. What is my position? What is my role? How is this going to ultimately affect our race? Take that whichever way you will. Right? Okay. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. Right? We hear it, we connect, and we're happy about the fact that you're in your lane. We're happy about the growth. And once we get glad and happy about being in our position and we're changing the way that we look at things, we're humbling ourselves. We are baraking Yahweh, right? We barak Yahweh at all times, right? His praise continually in our mouths, right? Now we magnify. Now that was in the position to where we can zoom in. You couldn't zoom in like that before, but now you can zoom in. You can't just zoom in like that before, but now you can zoom in. Now you can magnify. Sure. Right now you can, sure, yeah. Now you can magnify, right? Beforehand, you might not have been able to magnify. So everybody says all this stuff, but what? Magnify, Yahweh with me. Once again, magnify is what? There's a lens. There's a natural order. There's a natural progression. Everybody talks about magnify. Yes, magnify means make bigger, but it's only made bigger if you look through the proper lens. It's still microscopic to many. So if you don't look through the proper scope, if you're not seeing things through the proper scope or through the proper lens, you're not looking at through the proper culture, etc. You cannot magnify if you're not looking through the proper place. Just like we talked about before, everybody, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but everybody uses, for example, that scripture. They'll say John chapter 14, right? Beloved, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in the Father, also believeth in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. I come to prepare a place for thee, that where you are, I will be there also, right? We usually say this when we're putting somebody's body in the ground because that person is really already left, right? It's important that we do that, but I'm just saying, right? Trigger warning, please forgive me if that came off wrong. So we do that, right? We put that, in essence, we put the body in the ground. In putting said body in the ground, by the way, we ultimately are thinking about where it'll be in heaven, right? And then the job of the preacher at that point is to say, okay, what can I get you to do to think about what your salvation or your working out your own salvaging process, getting back to the original intent, your salvaging process with fear and trembling, right? However, culturally, what does that actually mean? It's talking about marriage. You see, so if you're not looking through the proper lens, you'll only think we use this for when somebody's passing away. But what is the culture that's going on? When a husband and wife, who were supposed to be pre-qualified back then in those days, right? Biblically talking about that Israelite culture, if you're looking at the proper interpretation of what they're saying, what does that mean? Hey, the husband and the wife are qualified already. The husband, in the midst of his work, might find a wife. He who finds a wife obtaineth a tabah, or a moral or constitutional thing, obtaineth favor from the Most High, right? Then you go to your parents. The parents and the neighborhood even gets involved. You go and you do what's called a knocking ceremony. That's where you get Revelation chapter 3, I think, where it says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. That's a marital part. That's part of a knocking ceremony. Still goes on in many places in Africa, West Africa, what you call the Middle East, even other places, even in America, believe it or not, to this day, right? Not as popular in America as other places, but still. And the father will come with the son, hopefully to be the bridegroom. They knock on the door. If they are accepted, right? Somebody opens the door, obviously. They come in, and then the father of the bridegroom, he pours in, right? My cup overfloweth. He literally pours into the father of the house of hopefully to be the bride. If the father of the bride drinks it, they have conversation. If everything goes well, then you start looking at something like a dowry, or what are you willing to sacrifice to show what you love for my daughter, because you're taking something of value. She's more precious than rupees. See the culture, like the microscope. Let us magnify, let us look in and actually see this correctly. So now that you see that, you go, oh, okay, all right, everything works out. The mother and the father are pleased here, the mother and the father are pleased here. Then at that point, she's already qualified as a wife. Remember, in our culture, she has to be a wife already. That's why I said culture matters when you're talking about this stuff. No matter what language you're reading it in, somebody will say, what version of the Bible, what language, this and that. Culture matters, right? You got to know the language, the culture, all this stuff to actually interpret it correctly, right? I'm not saying we're always off. I'm just saying it's very difficult if you don't know what it actually would be, right? So now you say, okay, well, what's the rest of it? Well, now you go, the wife, she'll have oil in her lamp and be preparing herself for her husband. Hence Matthew chapter 25, the 10 virgins. 5 had the oil, right? 5 did not. Why did the 5 did not have it? The 5 that didn't have it, they didn't have it due to what? They didn't have it because they didn't prepare. And so back then it wasn't a thing. Once again, this is not misogynistic. This is not, oh, y'all just supposed to do this, blah, blah. It's not free will. Member. She's a wife, according to Proverbs 31, right? The Proverbs 31 woman, the virtuous woman, she has a job, or she has not a job. She has her own business. So you have a business. She makes her own clothes. She's known in the streets. Her name is great, which makes her husband's name great, which means that the two have to interact and they have to be interdependent. It's not just the husband makes his wife great, the wife makes her husband great, right? See, culture mandates certain things that we would not go too far, which we do sometimes in certain cult like, camp like, church like, whatever behavior. Sometimes it goes that way, right? Not all the time, but sometimes it does. But we can see if you don't have the right culture, you take it the wrong way. So, anyways, so then after that, so she's preparing herself for the husband, and she's supposed to have, as a symbol of that, fresh oil in her lamp. And when her husband comes back looking for her eventually, because they're not supposed to live together in that culture, they do not date. In your Bible, you've never seen anything about dating. I know you got your singles ministry, and a lot of that's usually used to talk about dating. But back then they didn't date. A husband was already required to be a husband before marriage, and so was a wife. And if he found his wife and she met the standard, and she checked him and made sure he met the standard, and then everybody was in agreement, then they already knew what a husband and wife was. It was not, we going to date, try to hold some of this from ourselves, lie a little bit to each other, hold back this for myself. No, this is what is required of a wife. This is what I'm called to be. This is my personality. This is what required of a husband. This is what I'm called to be. This is my personality, right? And we talk these things through. She then prepares herself for her husband, putting oil in her lamp as a sign. The husband, now going back to the scripture, we're talking about John 14. Beloved, let not your heart be troubled, right? Believeth in the Father, also believeth in me. In my Father's house, there are many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. What does the husband now do who's waiting for marriage? Because remember, marriage is sex in that culture. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. If you go look at it, even in the Western society you're in today, most of us, right, who are listening today, I know there's some of you in Africa and some of you in, some of you Ghana and Nigeria. I know some of you listen in Australia, some of you listen in UK, but for the most part, most of us have been affected by this thought process, right, to where there's dating, this and that. But back then, the husband, right, he comes, and when he's pre-qualified, they get this. That's when you actually would get your paperwork. Then is when you're affianced or betrothed, or you become each other's fiance. Then once you get that paperwork, what do? The next thing that you do is then she goes to do what she does. What does the husband do? The husband, who's already at this point should have gotten his inheritance, right, from his father. He does what his father does. He has money. He has certain things together. He's being in the will of the Most High, just like Boaz was. If you look at Boaz, he was doing exactly what he was supposed to do before Ruth even enters into the equation, right? And then loves on Ruth because Ruth is willing to leave the heathen and coming with Naomi, and she was already technically married into Israel anyways. And he loves the things that she's doing for Naomi. So he's attracted to her being a wife, not to her just being a girl with a nice body with them hips. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa, she's attracted to, and really Naomi is giving her signal saying, this is what a husband should be. Oh yeah, he likes you. You know what? Next time, go and do this. And then they talk as husband and wife, even lay down with each other, but not have sex, right? And even get afraid. Like Boaz wakes up, like, oh, did I sin? And she has to tell him no, and then go down like that, right? So now what happens with the husband in this part is the husband goes back to his father's land and he builds an add-on to his father's house. We call that a mansion. If you go to Pennsylvania Deutsch, if you go to Lancaster, to the Amish, right? The Amish, when you go over to Lancaster, you will discover that if you get to go on a tour, and please respect them, please don't take pictures, please don't do things that are outside of their culture. But when you go and you see the Amish, guess what you'll find? You'll find that there are these add-ons to these houses, but they don't look the same as the houses. It looks really weird. Why are there these add-ons? Because those are mansions. When they get married, the husband, right, when he's allowed to go get his bride, will have her live there with him for a little bit before they go to their land. Right? Now, what happens is no man knows the day nor the hour except the father. His father, the father of the husband, his father, the father of the husband, is the only person that's going to tell you when you can go and get your wife. He has him build a mansion attached to his house, attached to his family. And he says, this is what I want. This is what I had to deal with. I talked to the mama. I talked to the daddy. They said she likes this. I want this many grandbabies. She wants this many grandbabies. Right? Your wife wants this many grandbabies, etc. This is what the outside needs to look like. You need to make a place for cooking. You need to make a place for this. You need to make a place for that. And he builds an add-on to his father's house according to his father's specifications. That's the natural order of things, right? He's preparing a place to secure his wife that she might feel affection in that place that he secured her in, not just from himself, but the family she's marrying into. And she is preparing herself to multiply through her anointing, through the oil. She's getting ready to multiply what she hears the instruction of her husband is. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8. Husbands or fathers, husbands lay down the instructions, wives, mothers, they lay down the law. So fathers give direction, mothers make it into law. They make it to something that protects the family. They're preparing themselves for each other culturally, a natural progression. So then when the father is pleased, he then turns to his son and says, go ahead and get my daughter. That's when the ceremony happens. That's when eventually they will break apart and the two will become one. And when they both lose their virginity, the sperm, which is blood, and the blood from the hymen that's broken, will be on the sheet. The father of the bride takes it as a contract. And if they decide to break up, they have to go before him and look him in the eye and tell him why what he's holding in his hand is no longer a contract, but it can be made void or should be made void. She's right, but up until then, they are husband and wife, and we're all in. You see, it's a whole different culture, which means that if that's the way you have to do it, why don't we date and why don't we teach dating? We do not date and we do not teach dating because we have been teaching you to be a husband and wife since you were born. How you doing, Magical P? Thanks for being part of the community. You see that? We were teaching you to be a husband and wife before you were born. We don't worry about dating because we're not trying to see, can you be boyfriend and girlfriend? That's not even part of our culture. Why would you waste time allowing somebody to enter into you, sis, and he not even going to take care of children? The whole point of two becoming one is for multiplication to happen, right? For you to hear the instruction of the seed and your body be able to receive it and be able to know that you'll be secure and nurtured and be able to give birth. So all this stuff, I know you want to hear this, but guess what? I wear a condom, or I get this, or I'm gonna go ahead and use Plan B, or I'm gonna use spermicide, or I'm gonna do whatever. You are antichrist. because you were designed specifically to give multiplication. If you laying down with somebody and multiplication is not part of it, then it's a lie and the truth is not in you. That's why dating is not required. Being a husband or a wife is. There'll be times that you don't like your wife. You still have to love her. There'll be times that you don't like yourself. You still have to love her. There'll be times that you don't like your husband. You still have to love him. There'll be times you don't like yourself. You still have to love him. I don't always like when your husband tells me to do something. There's times I've come in front of you guys and had to admit, I really don't want to preach this today. But I don't have no choice. I'm going to love it. That's action. Like is your emotion. Those come and go. But love is eternal because it is your husband. Your love will be honored more than your like. And if you love somebody enough, I promise you, they'll start liking you. This is why you have to be careful. Some of y'all got work husbands and work wives, and if you're not careful, y'all start liking them more than you like the one that's there. But why? Because you might get in a situation where you argue with the one at home, but with the one that's work, all they got to do is fake with you for like a few hours that they be with you. And then they go home to the one that they don't show any love to, but they'll show you love because they show you a smile. They're not even giving you anything big. What, you sit down for coffee? Some of y'all will say, don't take me out on my first day for coffee, but your work husband, your work wife, that y'all have coffee all the time. See, you giving love to them, but won't give love to the one at home. Even if y'all don't like each other, love each other. It's funny, but you know those things that they have on social media, and it'll be those things like when you mad at your girlfriend, you mad at your boyfriend, whatever, and they be walking around the house and stuff, and they do all these nice things, but they always have a mean face. They always got this mean mug. She tries to go out the door, and he'd be like, "Where you going?" Okay, he holds the door, and he tells her, "Wait." He'll make sure like smudges off her face or something, and then he sends her some money like that or whatever, and then she walks out. She sees the cash app. She goes, thank you, whatever, and they mad, they're angry, but that's love. Sometimes you're gonna have to love what you don't like. That's natural. You think that the bamboo, because they have feelings too. You think the bamboo likes having to wait 5 years before it can come off the ground? It's that weak at first, and it'll do that much gestational period, but once it grows, you can't get rid of it. It's got to learn how to act even when it doesn't like what it's going through. You're going to have to learn how to act even when you don't like what you're going through. That's natural. That's nature. Right? And it's real. Believe it or not, there are times that Pastor Kofi does something that makes Elder Alma upset, and she still loves me. Believe it or not, there are times that Elder Alma does something that I am not particularly pleased with, but I still love her. I'm not going to stop paying bills because I'm angry. I'm not going to not tell her that she doesn't look that she looks great in that dress. Excuse me. I'm not going to not tell her that she looks amazing in that dress because I'm mad at her. And then some of y'all get mad because you won't love each other, but then somebody else come out here and you don't even really like them like that. But if you start to love somebody, if they start to show you a little bit of love and you getting zero love, it seems like a whole mountain of love. And now the person that person couldn't even stand at some point, now all of a sudden they starting to have emotions about it. You won't tell your wife that she's beautiful, but this jerk that she doesn't like, that's ugly and everything to her, whatever, but that jerk be looking at her up and down, up and down, up and down. Hey, what's up? When you gonna give it up? I know your husband. I know he ain't been doing nothing. He don't do you no right anyway. He ain't no good. He ain't no count. You, whenever you ready, I got this thing for you, girl. Like whenever you ready, he could be as ugly and disgusting on that uncle vibe all day. But guess what? You ain't giving no love. At some point, even the dude she don't like, his disgusting version of love is better than none. You can be upset all you want. You keep saying all this stuff, talking trash about him. You just this. You just regular. Anybody could do that. What you want to cook it because you did this, because you took out the trash, because you did the gutter, blah, blah. But there's some woman that be watching and be like, dang, I wish I had a man to do the gutters. Uh-oh. That's called, we're going to go a couple minutes over probably. I'm sorry, y'all. I said we weren't going to be on this long, and now we're probably going to go a couple minutes over, right? If you have time to do so, please do so with us. If not, just remember we're going to try to be on live this evening, 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, and then we're going to try to do a meeting on Zoom for everybody. We'll call it a regional meeting, but we're not going to do regional meetings like split up this week. We're just going to do one big one tonight, right? But hopefully you can stay on for a couple extra minutes. I promise you I'm not going to abuse it, okay? Real talk. That's called, when somebody will tell you something about you, it's called encouragement. And when you keep saying why you shouldn't show love to somebody, it's called discouragement. And you know why you're willing to discourage? You're willing to discourage that person because you don't look at eternity. Who is your husband in eternity? Who is your wife in eternity? Speak those things that aren't in time as if they were eternal. Who is your wife in eternity? And who's supposed to be the teacher of your wife? You talk about the provider. Are you teaching her anything? Do your actions, your love show her that she can go ahead and be taught by you? Well, if you really love me, you know you would do this and you would do that or whatever, and you start rolling your eyes. Oh, she looking at anything? Fine. Take it to the next level. Go ahead and do it. And when you do it and you bring it back and then you organize it and put it in a place to where she can see it, right? When she starts to say it next time, you don't even got to open your mouth. Just go like this. Right? You ain't got no house for me. Okay. Be planned out, be thought process and stuff like that. You don't decorate my house, blah, blah. I wish I went to beautiful places. I went blah, blah. All right. Next time she does it, go like this. You hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? Next time she says it, go like that. But you got to put some work in. Faith without works is nothing. You have to put some work in, baby boy. You got to put some work in, baby girl. You know what? I'm tired of this. This house ain't clean and you ain't doing blah, blah. And this and that. I'm buffering. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. Be honest with you today. I don't know what to do about that. I'm trying my best to make sure the stuff works out. I got stuff on different stuff. It's almost over. I apologize if it's buffering. All right. But that's the best I'm going to do for the rest of the day. I apologize. I really do. Right. But you have to figure out and do some stuff. See, watch this. And some of you are like, no, I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to. But Yah says, right, some of y'all are sitting up there saying, man, I hope I could be like Abraham and I can go ahead and take Isaac. And if he told me to sacrifice Isaac, I would go ahead and do it knowing that there's a ram in the bush. But then Yah says, okay, well, your husband said, here's the direction. And you're like, oh, well, I don't know about that. Your wife says, can I try to do something? Right? Your wife says, it would be great if you would improve in this area. And all of a sudden, I don't know about that. Something wrong with you. I'm not saying be a doormat. Once again, don't humble yourself. The husband is supposed to be more submissive than anybody else in the house. If you don't like that, you just don't want to be a husband. Now, you think when I say more submissive, you think that I'm saying, oh, yeah, do. And by the way, what's wrong with you doing the dishes? What's wrong with you doing the laundry? What's up wrong with you doing some of those things every once in a while? Shoot, I do pretty much all of it. I happen to like it. But what's wrong with that? Right? What's wrong with you doing some cooking and stuff? What's wrong with you changing a diaper or two? You know what I'm saying? But on the flip side though, like be righteous. I want to make sure that this area of the house looks like this. Fine. You put it up that way, and then guess what? Say all I need you to do is keep it. That's what your husband did. He said, I'll show you how to carry the cross. He said, now carry yours. Carry on. Uh-oh. He he said, I'll show you how to carry the cross. Now carry it. He said, I'll create the environment. Now walk in it. That's natural. That's the natural order. Lionesses are not with lions just because. Every lion has to do something to get a lioness. It is not just have sex. You first of all, you have to prove that you're better than the lion that she was with. Oh, I know you won't hear that. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that you have to be able to pay. Can you make her feel protected? A lioness also, if we be honest, knows the value of protection. It's a natural order. That is a natural order of things. A lion comprehends he must protect, and he protects that which will. Well, and once again, we're going back. I know for some of you this is surface, but now that we done spent hours, prayerfully you'll get that. Even though this is a superficial statement, at least on its face, it actually is quite deep. because a lion will always protect she which multiplies, and a lioness will always multiply he who protects. And if the male lion roars from 2 miles away, she gets the signal because she's listening for his voice. And if the male lion discovers that the lioness does not feel secure enough, he realizes that he won't be able to be multiplied. So he will change his ways. And if that's the basics of it for you, if that's all you got right now, then live in that and live in that righteously. You hear what I'm saying? The offspring comes from the two. And the only way the offspring is going to happen for the male lion, the only way he's going to have sex, number one, number two need for the male, six basic human needs, is first being heard or respect, right? Which really is us feeling like you'll multiply what we give you. And then what? Number two is going to be sex. Well, the male lion has this down to a science. He recognizes that if I want offspring, and if I want, because he's not just having sex to have sex. Once again, this is a worldly concept. Just have as much sex as you want. Look, have as much sex as you want, for real, for real. You should be loving your spouse enough to where y'all trying to get it in as much as possible, right? But sex has a purpose for us to become one and for offspring at times to come out of it, right? That is the purpose of sex. It has a purpose. The purpose of marriage is for two to become one and for something to grow out of it. You hear what I'm saying? Right? So if that's the purpose of it, and you're getting with somebody, married to somebody, because sex, this is cultural. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. So if that is the case, and you're with somebody who's not worthy of your body, right? You cannot become one body with them, or else you're becoming nobody. Every husband, I said husband, not boyfriend, not boo, not man, not this, especially let me put a little something on it, kingdom of heaven husband, or kingdom husband, excuse me. Every one of us has it in us to secure you and give you affection because you respect us and you give us sex. I know you don't want to hear it like that, but that's natural order. And every wife has it in her to respect and multiply what her husband gives and give him sex because she knows that he secures her and gives her affection. And he gives her affection so well that she knows that she will not get this type of affection from anyone else. And since she will not get this type of affection from anyone else, she will never give his number one and number two need away to anybody else. She will never have sex with anybody else, and she will never hear anybody else on the level she hears her husband. See, it's natural order. I know we don't like this. See, some of this, even though you hear me, even though some of you are saying this makes sense, some of you still backtracking, like, I don't know, you still on the offensive, Some of you still like, I don't know about that. I don't know. That sounds kind of, that sounds kind of odd. The reality though is righteous. It's law. It's natural law. It's creative law. It's Yahweh's law, the creator of the universe. It is universal law. What does universe mean? Uni, a, or singular, and verse, a sentence. So the universe is a single spoken sentence. The one who spoke the universe, this single spoken sentence, into existence, that's nature. That's his nature. Wives, submit yourself only to your own husband. We're not misogynistic. We're not saying, hey, you better listen to something just because he's a man. Whenever any man you speak, you better shut up in his presence. Right? We're saying that there might be something that might need to be tweaked. If anytime a man speaks, you're ready to say why you don't need him. That's different. Are you catching it? That's the natural test. We're not trying to talk about you ain't got it, you can't listen, you stupid, you don't. No. The nature of things is a little different in the kingdom than what the nature of things are in the unnatural world. In the unnatural, you're supposed to modify what's natural. In the natural, you're supposed to consume only what is natural. Brother, if the sister, I promise you, if the sister does not feel like she's secure and she's not getting affection, just be ready to argue. She's not even arguing because she doesn't hear you. She cannot hear you because she's not secure enough to hear you. Why does a daughter hear her father? Because her father secures her. Boom, period. End of discussion. I know you don't want to hear that. That's what's up. Why does a daughter listen to her father? Even excuse me, even a father that's not in her life the way he's supposed to be, she will still at some point crave the attention and the knowledge of her father. Why? Because in her, something is created that says he's supposed to secure me. And by the way, if you've had a woman that was damaged because her father wasn't in her life, for some of you, because that's where you go, then guess what? Then you will be the example of her father that she's seen. And that means you have to be her teacher. Are you strong enough to teach the woman that has not had the father? And you might have some backlash because something in her feels unsecure and unprotected. And you will be the first person to take her from an insecure place to a place of security. And in the place of security, she will have the natural opportunity to go through the natural progression, becoming towards the natural end of becoming the natural wife that the creator of nature wanted for her or needed for her. Stop talking about, well, they all of them, they without mothers, they without fathers, they without fathers, they without fathers, they without fathers. Okay, fine. When's somebody gonna be their father? Spiritual father, psychological father, husband. Husband is the spiritual father of his house. Fine, she ain't have a father. She got you. It's in your nature to teach. What you teaching? You arguing or you teaching? And watch this. And watch this. As much as you don't want to hear this, you ready? As much as you're not gonna like me saying this, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. Teaching is not arguing, meaning she comes to you and you like, you don't do, you don't do, you don't do, you don't do, you don't do. Teach her. Not everybody learns online. Not everybody learns through a book. Some persons are visual learners. Some persons, they need to put their hands on it. If you're so busy saying why she can't clean, which is usually something you use when you're just trying to win an argument, but if you're so busy saying why she can't clean the house that well, clean the house for her, show her how it's done, and then say, babe, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna upkeep this, and I'd love it if we can clean together. If you're so busy while she's overweight, now listen, blah blah, say, hey babe, you know what? I'm gonna be getting up early for the next 5 weeks. I'm gonna get up every day at 5 a.m. and I'm gonna put some work in. I'd love to be able to have you work with me. Teach her, love on her, nurture her. Come on, Sister Taylor, that's beautiful. Teach her how to pray. You know, it's not only men that do not know how to pray. A lot of sisters don't know how to pray. And they don't even recognize the power of when a man prays over them. I'm gonna be honest, I don't do it enough. Holy Spirit just convicted me. Yes, even the pastor. You can be so busy praying over everybody else. I don't do it enough. I got to increase. And I'm not saying that because my wife asked me. I'm telling you that because Holy Spirit just said, I'm not even saying that because my wife asked me. I'm saying that Holy Spirit just said, you need to practice that more. You need to pray over your wife more. Duly noted, Holy Ghost. Because you can always be better. You can always increase. You got to teach. Anybody who's ever going to preach, anybody who's ever going to be a pastor, right? Especially if you're a male, right? For males, I'm talking about. If you are a male, anybody who's a pastor, you're going to preach. Your first congregation member is your wife. Unless you're just going to be like Paul and never get married. As soon as you get married, first person that you preach to, first person who's got to have the vision, first person who you have to be able to change the life of is your wife. And if you can change the life of everybody else and not your wife, you're not really married. You're playing. Amen. All right, we can keep on going, but time-wise, I said I wouldn't abuse your time. Thank you so much. Tada. We will be back on this evening. And for a live session on TikTok on Kofi_42. And we'll be back this evening on YouTube at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. There will be no regional meetings this week, except for tonight. We're going to have one big regional meeting. So you could basically make it like a SOC community meeting, if you will. But we'll have one big regional meeting tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern New York time. So prayerfully, we'll be able to see you guys there and spend some time with you guys this evening. And we'll talk about some Feast of Tabernacle stuff. And really, if you guys want to, I know it'll be late, but however you guys want, I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So if you guys just want to kind of talk, say hello to each other, spend some time. I saw your message, babe. If you don't mind, can you bring the football and stuff at least? And I got the bike and stuff with me. But prayerfully, you guys can join us tonight. We'll make sure we put a Google Calendar invite out. I'll try to add those who've been sending us their information recently on the forum. I'll try to add you guys to the stuff so you can be there tonight as well. I will not see you again till Thursday. Tomorrow's my day off. There will be some Patreon stuff tomorrow, but tomorrow's my day off. And I'll see you guys Thursday Rise of Prayer with Minister Anais at 7 a.m. Eastern New York time. We'll have a live session. And if you recall, we're going to have a special Q&A just for Thursday. Maybe we'll do this more often, but I want you guys to have some stuff. And if you want to call in just off the jump, however you guys want to be on, we'll try to open it up as much as possible. We'll have a special Q&A just for you all. And it's not going to be an official Q&A, but what we would like to do. So if you're coming and you're going to be like, oh, well, I got a question about this, maybe we can get to it. But what I would like to do on Thursday, what I'm led to do on Thursday is specifically, we would like for you guys, if you've heard stuff from Hebrew Israelites, Black Hebrew Israelites, whatever specifically, and there's a certain kind of teaching that's anti what we're doing, or even if you just want to know why are they teaching that, where did that come from, questions concerning that, even if there's stuff where you're playing, I hate to say that we're devil's advocate, but whatever, let's just say that even on that, if you're just saying stuff, not just in general, but you're saying stuff, hey, they teach this. If somebody comes to you and they say blah, 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 how would you handle it? We'd like to do that on Thursday. So it's not an official Q&A, but on Thursday, we would like for you to come with your mind ready for that. All right. So when I see you on Thursday, that's what we'd like to do. If I don't see you this evening, we pray that everything goes well, that Yehovah continues to be in your life. And we'll do a shout out of sorts today. I'm not really going to do an official shout out, but if you guys would like, I'll leave this up for a few minutes. And if you'd like to just kind of look at the pretty house, maybe we'll play some music and stuff like that. Or on Facebook, we'll have to mute the music, and on YouTube, but if you're on TikTok, you'll hear the music. But maybe we'll play some nice music or whatever. And if you'd like to be able to kind of, kind of just look behind, and if you want to do a shout out that way, we'll do one. And thank you guys for being on. We really, really love you today. We hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Try to pull up the music now to make sure that we have and so that you guys can see what's going on and stuff like that. But we thank you guys. We honor you. We hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Once again, 8 p.m. Eastern New York time live tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern New York time for our meeting. Also, too, you guys should be getting, I know you should have got it last night, you guys should be getting the new updated version of the book with some of the corrections. We'll give you another one later this week. And those of you who are still interested, 4 Hours of Power, we'll be advertising it for a little while. So if you're interested in the 4 Hours of Power book, we'll be advertising that. It's still, anytime you'd like, you can give a $10 donation for it, but we'll be heavily advertising it all the way through October the 24th. So we thank you guys, and you guys pray for me. We might try to put something else together, some kind of writing or something together, and see what happens in the days that I have off coming up, October 25th through the 31st. But y'all keep us in prayer. And we're thankful and grateful for each and every one of you. We appreciate, love you. We hope that you guys are getting something out of this stuff, this unofficial series, if you will. And hopefully this continues to bring life to your life. So thank you all for being on. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor. Yes, we do have some things on Zoom, including the meeting tonight. And once again, if we don't have your information, you can just you can do the shout out with us. So I'll explain how the shout out works, since everybody's going to kind of sort of be on one. Some of you won't hear the music, some of you will. But I'll just explain the shout out real quick. The shout out goes like this. Usually when the music plays on TikTok, we do it on TikTok usually only. When the music plays, we ask that you put your information in the chat. When we say your information, we do not want you to put your name. We do not want your phone number. We do not want your email address. We do not even want your residential address. When we say your number, what we would like is for you to put your information. What we would like for you to put is your state, province, or country that you are in, and even if you don't mind, the city. And that way we know who we're reaching. We can reach back out to you as well at some point. And we also know, hey, if you're in this area, we can tell you things that are going on, and we can make sure that you're part of things, even virtually, that happen for certain areas. We can make sure that you get that information. All right. And other than that, thank you all again. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We appreciate, love y'all. We thank you all so much for being on today. We're grateful and appreciative, and so much more. And we honor you, and we hope that everything goes well. So thank you again. Appreciate, love you. You guys take care. For some of you, you'll just see the background. I'll have to mute you so you won't be able to hear nature, unfortunately. But if you want to kind of just stick around and see and look at look at the stuff, feel free to look at a little bit of this. I think it's a nice little spot or whatever. I know it's not all the nature around, but nice little spot that we get to come to from time to time. So prayerfully, we'll be able to you guys can stick around for that. If you're on TikTok, you'll hear some music, and prayerfully, you'll be able to put that information in when the music plays. Thank you again. Remember, as always, family, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Take care. Peace.